It's like we're back in the studio. Los Angeles, 1997.
That's a good analogy.
Brett Gurwitz behind the controls. This is Brett.
I don't need to tell the truth, but I never lie. I don't need to bow to you. You're just passing by. I never wanted to be the one you bitch and moan and come home to. But as long as you look good, I'll come back to you. Get inside my troubled mind with all of your threats. Sometimes I think I was blind. Not before we met. I never wanted to be the one that you depend on for your life. When you cry, it smells like soup. Sound like Shona knife. Never feel how I said all night. I gotta ride. Each time I said all night. No, I just might. You make me stay all night. It's just that side of you tonight that makes me stay all night. I'm gonna stay all night. You're an evil little girl. I'm a twisted man, tearing through your perfect world. Make you understand. I never wanted to be the one you bitch and moan and come home to. But as long as you look good, I'll come back to you. And do the things you do, stay all night. I gotta ride. Each time I stay all night. No, I just might. You make me stay all night. It's just that side of you tonight that makes me stay all night. I'm gonna stay all. I would never treat you bad. You deserve the best from me. If you want to keep your place, you better get down on yours.
Yeah, Todd wrote this one.
Yeah. You think?
This is not mine.
Stand all night, I gotta ride. Each time I stand all night, no, I just might. You make me stand all night. It's just that side of you tonight that makes me stand all night. I'm gonna stand all night.
R.I.P. Todd.
Text the round robin your questions, comments, wagers. Give us a reason. Sleeper fantasy play, your best alternative line, whatever you have. Text the round robin 757-354-5517.
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, take us that star-spangled banner yet wave, for the land of the free and the home of the brave.
This is the Deep End Broadcasting Network.
You are tuned in to the Round Robin with Stephen Murray on Deep End Broadcasting.
Singing Bible night before I pray is on the bed. Way up ahead, I see the crowd with flashing blue red lights. I'd rather see the guy that drives on the highway. To the free show, never know what's going on. Just happy to exist. Traffic faces on the subway, cars running in their best. Always a waste of time, but it's not what I choose. I'm locked inside the circus, but that's the kind of thing. To the free show. City kids got hooked into the holes, it's get back home.
jumping right back into our list of football teams we've been talking about for the last 2 weeks with Dave Del Grande. We'll do that. We'll put our finishing touches on those, and then we'll jump right into some fantasy and start looking at some futures as well. And then we'll do a whole show next week. Basically, will be fantasy. I'll go ahead and do a mock draft this week. We'll compare it to some of the overall things happening, and we'll have some fun with that. Try to give you guys a better idea of who's going where, what to expect on your end, etc. And obviously, a lot of injuries happening too already, which we'll get to that here in a few minutes, but impacting all the way up to the first round potentially. So if you're having your drafts now, we've said it before, you got to try to change that for the future. I know there's so many leagues out there, it's probably almost electronically impossible to try to cram everyone's draft within the last couple of weeks, or really just the last week. But you really want to wait it out to the very last second if you can, just because of these injuries. We'll get to that here in a few minutes. Let's wrap up some teams with Dave. Dave, we have 5 left, but I forgot to mention Buffalo, so we'll start with them. So really 6 left. Bills opening their new stadium. A lot of complaints about the blockages of the fans, obstructed views, which I don't get in 2026. We can't do better than that, than to give every fan clear line sight in the stadium. Maybe that's what they get for kind of taking the cheap way out. I don't know. Let's see. Joe Brady in to help Josh Allen out. How is that going to be different from last year? Really just elevating his role. And, I mean, you got a good running back. Run him into the ground, I guess. Tight ends. Someone knocked me on the back of the head when Dalton Schultz gets back involved, catching touchdowns week to week. That kind of went away last season, and some favorable, better positions for his counterpart Dawson Knox to achieve. Wide receivers always have been a question mark, but now comes DJ Moore. But what about the defense? Already having some injuries there in training camp as well. It doesn't matter, really, to me, how many points they can put up. I mean, that's going to be the key to me at the end of the day, is how many points can maybe that offense put up? Because I think that defense could be putting them in some challenging situations down the road here. And it starts no further away than Boston with the Patriots, who are going to have a defense. They're going to have plenty of offense. So Buffalo, the favorite to win that division right now. I'm not exactly buying it myself. I think the Patriots are the better team. But what is your outlook for Buffalo as we see them right now? And it's about time, Dave. I don't know how many years it's going to be put up or shut up for Josh Allen here. But sooner or later, he's got to take that next step maybe, right?
Well, I think that the overall picture of the AFC is such that Buffalo, we've seen this before. I mean, I'm not sure Buffalo's going to be a whole lot different than what we saw last year or the year before.
Right.
I mean, they will be a contender. Now, in years past, the division hasn't been as strong, and by that I mean New England. And so maybe we're taking too close a look at the fact that they might not even win their division this year. They've got, they might not even be the best team in their division. But the fact is, they're going to be there. They brought in DJ Moore. They've always kind of had decent receivers, more quantity than quality. They've got an elite running back. Obviously, you could argue they've got the best quarterback. Certainly in fantasy, they have the best quarterback. And yes, their defense is going to be a problem. But like I said, you look around the AFC. Yeah, the AFC West has 3 good teams. Nobody great there. The AFC North, Nothing really great there. And of course, the AFC South, Houston's a really good defensive team, but nothing really great there. So just by standing still, I think you have to pencil in Buffalo as arguably the co-favorite in the entire conference, even if they're only a co-favorite in their own division. So
interesting, yeah.
So I don't. I mean, you put them in the NFC, and I think some of their problems would be more magnified. But in the AFC, I think they can get away with it. I think they can. They can win a lot of games, 35-31, kind of like what the Chiefs were 3 or 4 years ago. I don't see any problems there.
All right. So from what you just said right there, and that's very telling. And obviously we're a million miles away from the Super Bowl. 6 months, actually. First Super Bowl on Valentine's Day. We'll see how that goes over. That'll be interesting in itself. But you're making New England the favorite in the AFC in your mind right now?
I'd say at least a co-favorite.
Yeah.
I think New England. I agree with you about New England. I don't think there was. I mean, say what you want about their soft schedule last year. They played incredibly well on both sides of the ball. When they had a tougher opponent, they hung right in there with them. We put too much of an emphasis on what we just saw at the very end of the season. But I think New England is a team that should be better this year than last year, just based on familiarity and some of the young players that they had.
Continuity, yep.
But still, if I were Buffalo, New England wouldn't scare me.
Right.
I mean, what scares Buffalo is Kansas City.
Right.
Without Kansas City around, Buffalo, might have won a championship or two by now. But Kansas City doesn't scare anybody anymore.
Yeah, let's get with them. Let's take it right into Kansas City. Yep.
Well, right. So they're kind of, I wouldn't say they're out of the picture, but in Buffalo's mind, they're no longer that, that elephant in the room that, oh man, we can't talk about Kansas City because we can't beat them. Well, you know what? This isn't the same Kansas City team. So yes, I would say in going in, I would say yes. I'd say Buffalo. It's a very tight pack among 5, 6, 7, even 7 teams in the AFC. But if I had to pick one, I'd say, okay, you know what? I'm picking half of New England and half of Buffalo. Give me a co-favorites there.
How much do you think they're going to lean on Kenneth Walker, the Chiefs here, especially with Mahomes coming off that injury?
I would hope a lot. I think Kansas City has been a better team over the years when they've run the ball better. I think they've gotten away from that for whatever reason, because they've had decent running backs, and you wonder why they haven't run the ball better than they have. I think this is the best back that they've had.
Yeah.
In this run,
I still think he's underrated a little bit.
I do too. I mean, I agree. And but the question is, there are some teams that, and Kansas City seems to have gone down this road where it's very hard to be both a good running and a good passing team, because your offensive line, unless you've got 5 Pro Bowlers who can do everything, you tend to be really good at one thing or the other. And Kansas City's done a really good job over the years of pass protecting. Every time they lose a guy to free agency or what have you, they bring in another veteran player who protects Mahomes. And they've become that kind of a team where it's been set up for Mahomes to do well because he's gotten a lot of protection, but it's set up for the running game to fail because they don't have a real, run kind of oriented offensive lineman. And I just wonder if that's going to work against, their new running back this year. Like I said, I think he's better than what they've had before. So we'll see. And like you said, this is a different year for Kansas City because for the first time in 5 years, the quarterback is a bit of a question mark. He's not going to be this wild, scrambling guy, I wouldn't think. First year off a major injury like that. And I'm not trying to say he's never going to be the same, but if I were the coach of that team, I'd be telling him, hey, look, for the first month, for the first couple of months, none of this crazy stuff. We've got great receivers on this team, arguably the best collection, be the best 1-2 in the entire league. And let's not forget about our tight end, who's a Hall of Famer. So let's just stick with the script here for a while. We've got a better running game. Let's put handcuffs on Mahomes here and see what we can do. It's going to be interesting. I just have really no idea what to expect from Mahomes. On opening day, I expect a conservative approach, but some guys are Superman. That some guys recover from these serious injuries better than others. Is he going to be this guy? I don't know. They're just a different. There'll be a different team, I think, this year because they'll be more predictable. I think because they have to, because they can't allow Mahomes to run around crazy and do the things that he's done the last 4 or 5 years.
All right. I'm trying to pull up some good fantasy stuff now in preparation for when we get to that in a minute. But if I'm sitting there in round 3 and already have one really good running back and I got, a really good wide receiver, is that a good time to take Walker? Or is he going to project it higher?
I would, yeah. I'm afraid, yes. I'm afraid he's going to go before that. But yes, that would be a perfect time to take him. What's interesting about that, and we'll get more into this later on, but the interesting thing about backs this year is I think there are a couple of guys who could be really nice, quote unquote, sleeper types. And I don't really mean, 9th round sleepers. I'm talking about 3rd and 4th round guys that I'd love to have on my team. I'm just afraid that as we get closer to the season, that these guys who I've seen in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round are now going to be in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round and maybe overprice themselves. Because what's happening at running back is, you could literally name a dozen teams right now where it's hard to project who's going to get the most touches. Not necessarily the most touches, but the highest percentage. What is going to be the percentage of touches? We start right at the very top with New England. What's going on there? You got Travion Henderson, who's, I think, a first-round talent running back, but yet he's in a tandem with Stevenson, who's also a good back, and so what's going to be? Is it going to be 50-50, 60-40, 70-30? The greater the imbalance there, the more you'd want to take Henderson. But do you really, Henderson? Do you really take a Henderson in the 3rd round when you're not even sure he's anything more than a 50-50 back? And that, and like I said, there are 11 other, don't quote me on the number, 11 other teams that are in the same situation. And so you're in fantasy, you're looking at this big group saying, wow, if I was sure Kyron Williams was going to get 70% of the touches, I'd take him right now. But I'm not sure. If I knew Dowdle for the Steelers was going to get 70% of the touches, I'd take him right now. But I'm not sure. And we go down team after team after team is like that. And so my point here is, back to your question, we don't have that problem in Kansas City. We know who's going to get the ball 75% of the time. And so, come round 3, certainly, maybe even round 2, give me this sure thing rather than me trying to guess who's going to be the Chargers running back this year.
Wow. So I'm going to I'm going to have a million questions for you for fantasy. I'm looking at a couple different things right here.
Problem is, I'm not sure I have a million answers.
I'm looking at where they have Henderson ranked, and he's right around 58, 60.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
You know, and I've said that, there's a couple other guys like that, but the number one
Tuchin's better.
1B, I would say, is Scatterbo. I mean, he's not in the same boat necessarily in that his competition isn't as strong. But I even read something the other day that on their official, now granted, this is a preseason, right? But on their official depth chart, if you actually looked at their depth chart today, it lists him as co-starter with Tracy. They're like, you got to be kidding me, right? And so, but yeah, you look at his average draft position, and it's right down there with Henderson. It's like, man, I give me if I could get those two guys in rounds 4 and 5, and oh man, I jump at that in a second, and just take my chances that those are my two starting running backs. I might I start off the draft with 3 wide receivers, and come back with those two guys because A, I think they're both going to be really good, but B, you're getting them so low that then there's a bunch of backs in round 6, 7, and 8 who are part of this committee or uncertainty or that I talked about a minute ago, where you're playing a guessing game as to, is this guy going to be the guy or is it going to be this other guy? Well, in round 6 or 7, when you already have 2 pretty good backs, you can take a chance on these guys. You can guess and guess wrong.
Jonathan Brooks could be a steal down there.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And that's a guy. That's a guy who, 2 weeks from now, might have a completely different draft position than he has now because Hubbard got injured, not seriously necessarily, but you know how fantasy works. If he's questionable for week 1, then nobody drafts him. They'll draft the other guy, and that's what I'm afraid of. Now all of a sudden everyone's going to jump on Brooks earlier than I would have hoped. But that's a perfect example of a guy. If you drafted today, you could get in round 6, maybe even round 7 as your 3rd running back. Heck, maybe even as your 4th running back. And it's like, oh man, this is the perfect, the sleeper type of guy to have on your team. Where if he doesn't come through, well, I threw a dart, I missed, big deal. I still got Scatterbo and Henderson, But if he hits, and now all of a sudden, oh, gee, they were right. Tracy's getting a lot of carries here instead of Scatterbo. That's all right because I got Brooks, waiting in the wings. So that's a part of the draft strategy this year. I think is that there's a lot. I plan on doing a lot of dart throwing in those middle rounds. All the more reason to secure yourself at wide receiver, and then you can do that. If you don't have good wide receivers, then taking risks on running back, or you're asking for trouble because you don't have something to fall back on if things fail. So it's hopefully things change between now and the start of the season. But that to me is kind of a draft strategy is go ahead and play general manager. Guess who's going to be the running back in Denver? Who's going to be the running back in Pittsburgh, in Jacksonville? Like I said, there are literally 12 teams where if we knew right now that this guy was going to get a vast majority of the carries, his stock would go way up. But unfortunately, we don't know that yet.
All right, more on that as we go through the program. I'll say this about the Chiefs, and we'll move on to Denver after that. and then Atlanta, since they played each other on Friday night, and I'll have something to say about that as well, which will transition into actual week one. The Chiefs, to me, from the gambling perspective, I'll give it. You said it. They don't shake your boots anymore. They don't scare you. So they don't scare me as, oh, no, I got to go against Mahomes, or, why would I bet against this Mahomes guy, or even the bookie when all the money's coming in on the Chiefs. You're like, oh, no, I need the Titans to cover 5.5 points against Kansas City. What are they thinking? And then Mahomes, goes out to a 21-0 lead to start the game, and you're burying your head in the sand. That kind of threat doesn't scare me anymore with Kansas City overall. But until there's a dagger and they're back every season, I won't sit comfortably either. I'll just say that.
I agree. I mean, and so much of it comes down to Mahomes, and no doubt about it. But you look at their passing game, and you've got Rice, and the only reason Rice at this point isn't a real true superstar receiver is he's had off the field problems, and that appears to be behind him now, in the sense that, okay, we're not going into the season worried about when is this suspension going to end? When is he coming back from his injury? No, he comes in at 100% this year. I think he could have, he certainly warrants at least a second round fantasy pick. I think he's that good of a receiver, and yet you've got Worthy.
It was non-existent last year. I'll just get ready to bring him up.
Exactly, and right, and he, for a while there, they thought he, Rice is on suspension, big deal. They got Worthy. He's a superstar. Well, I'm not sure he responded well last year to being this, second wheel, third wheel among receivers. But I still think he's got a ton of talent, especially as a number two. And then, as I mentioned a minute ago, I mean, I don't think Kelsey is going to be a top 5, top 8 tight end in terms of number of catches. But he's as good as they get at the goal line, working with Mahomes, and they have such great chemistry together. You got to guard him between the hash marks, which opens it up on the outside for these big wide receivers. Now you've got a back who's got more speed than what they've had before. I think that you throw all of that in a mixer, Kansas City's still going to be a formidable offensive team if Mahomes, isn't out there limping around. And I don't expect that's going to be the case. But again, I don't know from a coaching standpoint that they aren't telling him, hey, look, here, you got a clock in your head. 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. You have to throw the football. No more of this crazy scrambling around, running down the sideline, extending the football to get the first down. No. That's not you anymore. Maybe by the end of the season, but especially early on, you're throwing that ball away, and we're punting this year. We'll see if that actually happens. But I think there's a good chance that Kansas City, even with all those weapons, will be a significantly lesser offensive team this year than they've been in recent years.
2 years ago, Worthy, they were throwing him the ball out of the backfield. They were letting him run the ball a lot more. We just didn't see any of that last year. And if you remember, I think it was after Rice's first game back, which I think he did pretty good. If he might have had 2 touchdowns in that first game he came back. And I said, I wonder how many times the rest of the season Worthy and Rice will both have a touchdown in the same game. And I was willing to blindly bet it, which I didn't. I never ended up doing it. But it crossed my mind to blindly bet that every week, knowing that, the two of those guys together, on at least 2 occasions would get your money back. But, maybe 3 or 4 or even 5 times if you got lucky and get a real nice big payoff on Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice to get 1 touchdown each in the same game. You know how many times they did that last year? 0. Zero.
Worthy had one touchdown the entire season. I mean, and that happened before Rice came back.
Right.
I mean, you're right. He just completely disappeared. And we've seen this from Mahomes, though. We've seen this, even in the days of Tyreek Hill. He seems to have a favorite downfield receiver that Mahomes holds the ball more than any other quarterback in the league because he can scramble around, he can do different things, but he's looking for his favorite guy down the field, and that clearly now is Rice. But like I said, is this going to be the same Mahomes? Is he going to be this guy who's allowed to hold the ball endlessly, scramble around like he has before? I don't think so. I think they're going to be more scripted. I think that because of that, you will see more balls going to Kelsey, more balls going to Worthy. Just because that it's now not up to Mahomes to make the decision where to throw the ball down the field. It's the guy in the headset telling him, okay, here, pass pattern 3B, oh, that's the one to Worthy over here on the left. Okay, that's what you want, and the ball goes to Worthy. So that's my. I'm not sure that makes Kansas City a worse team because crying out loud, Worthy should be scoring more than one touchdown. It's a complete waste of talent that he's scoring one touchdown. So maybe that's better for Kansas City as a team to spread the ball around. Certainly they should be able to run better this year. But from a fantasy perspective, spreading the ball around is not particularly a good thing. So we'll see.
You would think at some point Andy Reid would be shaking him by the shoulders with his hands almost around his neck. Mahomes saying, throw it to Worthy in the flat. Just throw it to Worthy in the flat. Maybe Andy Reid's too passive nowadays in his older age. Maybe Mahomes has a lot more command of that offense. And why wouldn't he? But, I mean, Andy Reid might be more subdued, acting like the grandpa over there rather than, trying to get a fire underneath these guys' britches, I guess.
Well, no,
maybe
I
that's just
agree
me.
that, they've had success by being unscripted, by leaving it, the decisions in the homes of Mahomes, in the hands of Mahomes. But I wouldn't be surprised, like you said there, if the coaching staff, took a tighter grip on, okay, look, especially early in the year, let's take like a preseason approach. All right, we're going to let you play, but you can't get hit. Throw the ball quickly.
Meet this guy, Kenneth Walker the third. You're going to hand the ball to him a lot. I mean, a lot.
Exactly, or swing it to him.
Yeah.
Right.
Because DeMarcado, he's that player who fumbled the ball, or he didn't fumble. He dropped the ball crossing the goal line last year for Arizona, if I'm correct. That was him. Is now going to be the backup to Walker the third. So, he'll get some carries, but you got to think Walker the third is really going to be the bell cow there. Okay, enough of the Chiefs.
I agree, and that's the if they are conservative at all with Mahomes, there's your guy that's benefiting because this guy. I mean, it's not we're going to be conservative with Mahomes, but man, we don't trust our running game. No, you know what? You've got a good running game this year. It gives you an incentive to put the handcuffs on Mahomes. Just keep handing the ball off, to this guy. I think that you're going to see the highest scoring back, in recent Kansas City history this year with the addition of this guy.
Ah, okay, nice. All right, cool. That's noteworthy in itself. Let's move to we'll do a double since they just played each other, and I said that this would transition into week one. And everyone out there, they have their different preference. Why would I bet on the preseason? Or, the preseason is actually the easiest thing to bet on. It doesn't matter, whatever your argument is. A lot of people will shun away from it. Other people's embrace it with open arms. Me, I just like to have a little bit of action in the game and have some fun with it. So I like to carpet bomb unders. And I did too much the other night. I got a little too greedy with my alternate under 34.5 in Pittsburgh and Green Bay. Otherwise, I would have gone 4-0 and hit a nice little 4-team parlay of unders. But last night, I'm sitting there looking at the 3 games, and it was a simple handicap to me. On one side, you have Tua with the Falcons, who hadn't been practicing. You've been having injuries at quarterback with Atlanta. They've had defensive issues with injuries as well. Not having the best training camp. They kind of look like, how organized can this team really be? And then you look at the other side where you have Sean Payton. He's able to take that team deep into the playoffs last year, AFC championship game. It's the one thing I think you can always expect from someone like Sean Payton and the guys like him is, they're always going to at least be prepared. And even if that's in preseason week 1. So the simple handicap was that the quarterbacks were going to be good enough for Denver probably to roll all over Atlanta in that game, figuring that the Broncos have been very much more the organized franchise. And that seemed to be the case. I'm going to take that one step further because Pittsburgh looked like they had some good organization to them in their game against Green Bay. That kid Wetjen, I think I've said his name now twice. He's the first player. Maybe we're mentioning him twice here as I've kind of looked at him week 1 a little bit. But if you're going to get that kind of Jordy Nelson-esque type of performance that he gave, Aaron Rodgers could have a new toy there. I thoroughly think that Pittsburgh is going to roll all over Atlanta week 1 in that game. I don't even know if the Falcons will have anything sorted out at that point. I guess Tua is their quarterback, and then they'll just go from there. But Denver, it doesn't surprise me that they're organized. Atlanta, it's not going to shock me that they're disorganized. How about this? I don't know what Atlanta's paying, and I want to take a look at some of these type of bets before we get out of the program. But what about Atlanta maybe to have the worst record somehow? I bet you might get some good odds on that. So we'll take a look at that here. It's going to be hard to beat Miami. But maybe Atlanta just kind of doesn't have anything to work with at the end of the day. And they'll find themselves there at the bottom. But Denver to you and the Falcons. And I don't know. Would you put $100 on the Steelers to beat Atlanta right now? What your thoughts on all that?
Well, first off, I do think Pittsburgh's going to have a good season. I talked last week about they get a break in the schedule this year. The AFC North gets the soft schedule this year, and so that'll help all the teams in the North. The problem is that I'm not sure that who's going to take advantage of that. Cincinnati has kind of been flaky, not the same team that we remember. Baltimore certainly isn't the same team we remember. I mean, they could completely go downhill this year with the new coach and what have you. And then what do you expect from Cleveland? I mean, Cleveland might be improved, but they just gave away their by far their best player. They've got a big question mark at quarterback, and so I think Pittsburgh is a very solid selection to win that division. And you have to remember about McCarthy. McCarthy, has been a really, really good regular season coach. He's one of these guys who his teams make the playoffs every year. and usually not just because they're 9-8 in a bad division. All the years in Green Bay, his biggest criticism was Aaron Rodgers should have won 4 Super Bowl titles, and McCarthy held them back in the playoffs. So, okay, say what you want about that. He got him there, and Green Bay was there every year, and even in Dallas, he was fine. I think that I do think that Pittsburgh is going to be a surprisingly good team in the regular season, and like you said, it starts off with a game where you look at Pittsburgh and Atlanta, 2 mediocre teams, pick 'em game. No. Pittsburgh's a touchdown or more better than Atlanta going into that game. So I agree with you that I think Pittsburgh could put a pretty big number up in that game. Now, getting back to Denver versus Atlanta. Denver's an interesting team. Denver. I don't think they're nearly as good as their record would indicate last year. I mean, that's hardly a really bold statement given how great their record was. But at the same time, they're not going to fall back and go 7-10. They've got a lot of nice weapons. I think the problem with Denver from a perception standpoint is who's that star player that can make a difference in a close game. You've got to stop this guy. I mean, even a mediocre team like Cincinnati, it's like they've got Jamar Chase, and last drive of the game, he can catch 5 or 6 passes and beat you almost single-handedly. Denver's not that kind of team. Denver's a team that's going to grind it out against you defensively, but they don't have a top back. They've got decent receivers, but just when you think one guy is going to be the guy, then the next week it's somebody else. And they brought in Waddle this year, who, man, he could have a really nice season. He certainly looks like he's going to be their best receiver. But you know what? They still got Sutton, right? They still got Franklin. They've got a lot of weapons, and it's just hard to identify who's going to be that guy, that go-to guy. Even their quarterback, he's pretty good. Not a guy you would say, he's going to lead them to a championship this year. So I just think that part of their problem is just the perception that they just don't have superstar talent, especially on offense. And that's not necessarily the best way to judge teams. You judge teams, like you said. What can the coach do with decent talent across the board? Well, this guy knows what he's doing. And they're going to show up defensively every game, and that takes the pressure off the offense. And now the offense is hitting you, not big chunks at a time necessarily, but the offense is hitting you from every which direction. This new guy, Waddle, wow, we need to pay more attention to him. No, you know what? They got 2 or 3 other receivers too. So I think they're, in the AFC, they'll be there again. Are they better than the Chargers? I think they're certainly up there with them, right. At least. Are they better than the Chiefs? Well, I think going in, you'd say they're at least even with the Chiefs. They're in that pack where it wouldn't be a surprise to me if Denver comes out of the AFC. But it wouldn't surprise me if it were the Chargers. Wouldn't surprise me if it's New England. Wouldn't surprise me if it's Buffalo. Wouldn't surprise me if it's Houston. I mean, there's just a lot of pretty good teams in the AFC. And I think it's hard to distinguish between them.
All right. Is there – let's pause real quick. And I'm trying to find the specials. I might have to go on my phone here, which I'll do here in a second. I don't see it up on the main screen. But if you recall, I had my ticket last year for the Patriots to go 6-0 in their division at 250 to 1 odds, which I don't think you ever laughed at me. But, you know, at 250 to 1 odds, you know, no one's betting that. You know, that's not going to happen. That ticket was very, very close to cashing. It took a 21-0 blown lead to lose the ticket. And looking for similar opportunities like that moving forward. I know we can't take it too much off of the one preseason game. But, man, was I kind of excited watching the Raiders a little bit. Is there a path for the Raiders, once all these other teams beat each other up, that maybe somehow they beat all these teams twice and find themselves undefeated in that division and somehow winning it? Now, undefeated, that, you know, likely not happening. But, I mean, it's just beating each team twice, and maybe things break right for you, and maybe these teams do beat each other up that bad. Could Oakland kind of slide to the top somehow?
No.
Okay.
That division is just too tough. I mean, you could argue the other way around, that even if the Raiders are vastly improved, and I'm not sure that term is accurate.
What if they did like a greatest show on turf, like the Rams came out the one year after winning 2 or 3 games, and just for whatever reason, Kirk Cousins is throwing the ball all over the place, and this Tucker kid is 2,000 yards receiving, and Bowers is killing people too.
Well, first off, you've still got the other side of the ball where they don't seem to be very good. They haven't been great, even with the defensive-minded coach in recent years, and now they've flipped to an offensive-minded coach. You would think that the offense would improve, and they certainly have a couple of marquee talents on the offense, but defensively they've got nobody. And heck, they tried to get rid of their best defensive player, and then they got him back because supposedly he's got a bad knee or whatever. That's never a good thing. But I just think defensively they're so bad that these are 3 good teams in their division. And even if you're confident that the Raiders can play competitively against these guys, which, okay, these aren't world beaters. The Chargers, the Broncos, the Chiefs, the Raiders could compete with them for 3 quarters, but come down to the 4th quarter of a tight game, you got to stop somebody. Denver's going to stop you. Chargers are a good, solid defensive team, and Chiefs have a history of doing this, of getting that last touchdown. So, for 3 quarters, if you could get a line, could they go 6-0? Could they have a lead after 3 quarters in every division game? Okay, maybe I would bite on that. But to be on top after the 4th quarter, I think they're more likely to go 0-6 than they are 6-0.
All right. Okay. All right. 2 teams left: Washington and Tampa Bay. Washington, to me, has a very narrow spectrum, where this team is going to fall somewhere between 7-10, and I don't even think 10-7, but I'll say 9-8. I think they're going to win some games. They're going to lose some games. They're not going to be the best. They're not going to be the worst. They're going to be the proverbial team that week to week you just can't figure out one way or another. And I think that's just the way it's going to be with them. That's the feeling I get, and that's what I'm going to go with there. So that's first. Second, much broader spectrum for Tampa Bay. A lot of people were expecting them to fall flat on their faces. Is that really what they're going to do? Fall flat on their face? Baker playing with a chip, where they could super excel and, not miss a beat without Evans. Ibuka, career year, potentially. Bucky Irving, he doesn't have White to counterfeit him anymore. He does have Gainwell. He comes over, Kenneth Gainwell, and they also have that kid Sean Tucker, who seemed to play well when he gets opportunities. But maybe Bucky down in that spot of running backs that you talked about in the 50s turns out to be that Jim at fantasy this year. So I'm more on the side of the Buccaneers not regressing and progressing. If they do regress, I think that coaches, we don't call for coaches' jobs here. But there might be a reason they're looking to maybe get rid of Bowles at the end of the day. And anything 7-10 or worse, 8 or 9 or worse, could actually do that. But Baker's going to play hard, and we'll see how his free agency goes potentially down the road. I'm not willing to kick dirt with the shovel on top of the Buccaneers' grave yet. And Washington, just one of those teams in the middle that you probably just want to put on your do not play list maybe all season long. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I see. I don't share the same opinion of Baker. I mean, I think he's done incredibly well. As gutsy a quarterback as we've seen these last 4 years. But so much is riding on him, and he's not the kind of guy that you want to go into the season. You're not sure where his head is, because that's kind of been the one thing about him. He's a loose cannon, and he's been, like I said, surprisingly good and clutch, and a winner in recent years. But if his head's not on straight, if he goes into this season with a screw it, you guys don't trust me, I don't want to be here anymore, I'm going to play this out, and I'm out of here next year. Well, that team could go 4-13. They absolutely need him to be that winner, that clutch guy, that leader that he's been. And I don't, knowing Baker Mayfield's history, I don't trust that he's going to show up and be that guy this year. And if he doesn't, that team's in a world of hurt. And so will they win that division? I think they got a better chance to finish last. I really do. Of all the teams this year, you look the potential blow up teams this year. I'd put them at or near the head of that list. Right along with Baltimore. And because Baltimore's kind of in the same situation with their quarterback, and a new coach, and what's this guy going to do? And we didn't make any improvements again. I think that Lamar Jackson could very well go into the season with that kind of attitude as well. Now, he doesn't have that history that Baker has, that flaky history. So it's a little harder to predict for him. But in Baker's case, if his head's not in it, then they've got no chance. Washington, I don't think Washington has the talent. I don't know how they did it a couple of years ago, but I don't think they have the talent to be that kind of a team again. But again, it comes down to the quarterback. They need this guy to be a magician like he was 2 years ago, and maybe he's capable of that. The problem with that team is they have no running game. And I talked about teams, the dozen teams where you can't identify who's going to be there, their bell cow or whatever. I don't see it on this. I mean, Grosky Merritt at times looked like a decent back last year.
Oh yeah, that was a pain to try to figure out. Yes.
Yeah, right. And now they've got Rashad White. They bring him in. They drafted Katron Allen, who had a really nice career at Penn State. They've got three backs that are all. I mean, I don't know. I can't. Excuse me. I can't imagine any of them being a starter on an NFL team, let alone an NFL contending team. And if you've got no running game, And now you can focus more attention on slowing down their quarterback, keeping him from scrambling around and doing things. I think that, that's not a good thing for Daniels, who absolutely has to be at MVP level for this team to succeed. Now, he's got a couple of nice weapons among his receivers, but like I said, if you can't run the ball at all, then that really limits what you can do in your passing game. I don't know. I don't see good things happening for Washington this year. I don't think they're really good defensively either. And so their offense has to have a big season like 2 years ago, and not without a running game. So I'm going to say, much like Tampa Bay, I think this team is more likely to finish in last place than it is to finish even in second place.
Right. Okay. All right. And that does it. We've gone over at least a little bit of every team. So we'll move forward. And let's see, August the 15th, we got the 22nd. We got the 29th. And then we'll be on, no, not even for real after that. 3 more preseason weeks. And then we'll be on for real after that. But that third preseason week, we'll be able to pick a couple games with the ones happening overseas before the next week 1 show. So we need to occupy more time, and that's when we'll start to go fantasy heavy. Today, we'll get some picks in as well. We'll look at some things, and then we'll go big time more in the fantasy next week, and then the picks will kind of come with the third week there. So that will be the plan. And I guess we just kind of need to start at the top. Let me get my average draft position kind of up here again. And I'm looking at a couple different ones. I got fantasypros.com up here. I also got CBS Sports. So I'll try to get a good feel where everyone's getting drafted average wise. But right off the bat, a couple guys right here in our top 5, according to this Fantasy Pros website, dealing with injuries already. So let's start with that. It's the age-old question about the injuries with these guys. But Puka gets hurt a lot. McCaffrey gets hurt a lot. McCaffrey hurt now. Puka hurt now. You expect to have them both for the regular season mostly, but isn't this how McCaffrey started off his injury? Was it 2 years ago when he just kind of had some tightness, and then that he never really saw the field after that? So fantasy owners being concerned about the top commodities overall as we near the drafts. Your thoughts there?
Well, yeah. I mean, you cannot take a chance with your first round pick. And so I don't think either one of those two guys you would label as taking a chance. I think I rate Puka maybe a little lower, a pick or two lower than the general consensus. But that has more to do with he's got off the field problems too. I mean, it's just not. I don't know. He's someone that I just maybe don't know enough about to trust the fact that he isn't going to have more problems as the season goes along, whether it's physically or whether it's off the field or whatever it is. He does take a lot of punishment. He catches a lot of short balls. He's pretty, big guy, but I mean, he gets hit a lot more than these other, wide receivers that are running down the field. I'm not comfortable necessarily taking him as high as others are. I hope he's just not one of those guys because I think there are 5 guys in fantasy who absolutely positively have to be the first 5 picks. If you're picking the top 5, you have to take one of these 5 guys. And that is Gibbs and Bijan Robinson, the 2 standout running backs, and Chase and Nakua and Smith Najigba. as the three standout wide receivers. These are the core. Going to be your superstar player. I think there's a big drop off, significant drop off between 5 and 6. Drafting 6 is not the ideal place to pick this year, unless one of these guys slips to you. Because at 6, you're going to have to make a decision. Good players there, but not of the level that we're talking about here. I just hope that I'm not the guy drafting 5th, and Puka is the guy, the last man standing, because I really don't want him as my main guy. I'm looking for an excuse not to draft him. Now, at some point, you got to do it. But I'm hoping that scenario doesn't play out. Now, in McCaffrey's case, we saw this last year too. Yes, McCaffrey has had some injuries in the past. He sabotaged your fantasy season if you had him a couple of years ago when he basically missed the whole year. But if you remember correctly, you went into last year and, oh my God, he's not practicing today. He woke up sore. Yeah, he's 30 years old. Football players tend to wake up sore after a two-a-day or whatever. And the 49ers were smart. They paced them in the preseason. And anybody who didn't take McCaffrey last year because they thought he was injury prone made a huge mistake, because he touched the ball more than any other player in the league. And what's going to be different this year? Nothing. Nothing's going to be different. Yeah, he's a year older, and yeah, he missed the practice because he was sore. But I want you in my league, if you're going to be the one who at pick 7 or 8 or wherever it's somewhere down lower in the first round, if you're not taking him because you think he's an injury risk, I think you're making a big mistake.
All right. How about someone who doesn't have injuries but doesn't have a team like Devin Achane? I mean, isn't he just going to get loaded up in the box?
You would think so. And here's he's a guy on my do not draft list.
Right.
But what's funny is I watched the Commanders against the Dolphins preseason game. And at least I watched the first quarter and a half of it. And now, granted, the Commanders were not playing any defensive starters. But the Dolphins came right out, and first play of the game, hand to Achane, 8 yards. The next play, hand to Achane, 6 yards. I mean, if they're able to move you off the line of scrimmage with their offensive line, he's going to be a guy that they'd love to give the ball to, 25 times a game. And he may very well lead the league in rushing attempts. And if so, then I'm dead wrong about him, because Miami's not going to score a lot of points. He might not score a whole lot of touchdowns, but I'll tell you what, if he's running the ball 25 times, catching the ball 5 times, he's going to be worthy of a second round pick.
Right.
The problem is I don't like drafting running backs from bad teams, just because they tend to be behind. They got a game plan going in that we're going to hand the ball to Achane right and left and in the middle. And, for the first half of the game, they're able to do that. In the second half of the game, when they're behind by 10 points, 13 points, 17 points, now it's like, well, we can't run the ball anymore. We got to wing it. And so here's a guy who at halftime had 12 carries for 60 yards and a couple of catches, and okay, I'm on my way. Now in the second half, he gets 3 touches and 2 receptions, and you end up with a disappointing effort. I just see that a lot in Miami's future, kind of like what Genti went through last year with the Raiders. He was a very high pick based solely on talent, and then when you realize, oh my God, this team's terrible. He keeps running into a brick wall. They got no quarterback. And then it's like, as good as he is, he's just not going to put up the numbers. I fear that that's where Achane, a very talented guy, is going to end up this year. He will not be on my fantasy team.
Okay, let's assume we're in a 10-team league. Achane's off the board. This could be a 12-team league, because maybe these players I doubt they'd slip in a 12-team league. So let's say it's a 10-team league. You're drafting last, which means in a snake draft, you're going to draft first in the second round. If I'm staring Genty and Barkley right in the face, are those my two running backs I'm taking right there?
No, I still wouldn't take Jets. I don't think the Raiders are going to be a good offensive team. He's going way too high. I mean, those who drafted him last year will know not to draft him just as high this year.
Right.
I just, like I said, I do not want a running back on my team on a team that's going to win 4, 5, maybe 6 games. It's just not, Barkley's the exact opposite. He's older. Say what you want about him. Philadelphia is going to win 10, 11 games. They're going to be in every game in the fourth quarter. This guy is, clearly, like Genty is, clearly their number one rushing option. He's going to get the ball, maybe even more than he has in the past because you don't got A.J. Brown there anymore. I think he's a very, very strong play at that point late in the first round. I rate him 5th among running backs behind, Bijan and Gibbs. I saw you are 1, 2. Then my next pack of 5, all of which you might consider if you're picking 10th or 12th or wherever you were talking about. You want one of these guys to slip to you because that's going to give you a decision. But I put McCaffrey, Taylor, Barkley, Henry, and Cook in that group. In a 12-team league, drafting 12th, if I came out of that with Henry and Cook as my 2 picks, that's my starting backfield, I'd feel real good about myself. If Barkley happened to slip to that point or Taylor happened to slip to that point, I'm feeling even better about myself. Because what that does is now it solidifies you at running back where, like I said, come round 3 and 4, you start getting into these question marks. You start getting into this guessing game. And some teams are going to hit with their darts and some aren't. Ideally, you'd rather not be one of those teams. You want to be the team that, I don't got to play that game because I've got 2 great running backs. Now, if you look at the depth of wide receiver, oh my goodness, round 3, round 4, round 5, round 6, there are a ton of really good wide receivers down there where you could say, okay, give me 2 great running backs to start, and I'm very confident in rounds 3, 4, 5, and 6. I'm going to end up with 4 really good wide receivers there. And now I'm set. Now, I don't got these question marks going into the season that people will laugh and say, well, you didn't draft your quarterback till the 10th round. You didn't draft your tight end till the 8th round. Well, first off, those are, tight end is what you would call a lesser position. But the depth of tight end this year is greater than it's ever been. And we've seen this at quarterback in recent years in fantasy. I mean, last year, you could have taken, certainly my boy, Goff, you could have taken him around 12 last year and gotten yourself a top 10 quarterback. You could have taken May last year way down the list and gotten yourself one of the top 5 quarterbacks. There are going to be guys down, in the 10th after every other team's got a quarterback. Heck, after 2 or 3 teams have 2 quarterbacks, you're still going to be looking at a list where, wow, you're kidding me. I can still get Goff at this point. I can still get Murray at this point. I could get, Love, Nix, maybe even Purdy. The New Orleans guy, Sloth, or however you pronounce his name, I think he's going to have a real nice season. There's just a lot of, Daniels, the guy that could slip, way down the list. Where's Mahomes going? So I think that the sooner you solidify your running back situation, the better off you're going to be. So if I were drafting at the end of the first round, I'm looking at my big 7 guys and praying that 2 of them are still there. In a 10-team league, obviously you got a lot better chance of that happening than in the 12-team league. But even in a 12-team league, I'm pretty confident I can get Henry and Cook at that point.
All right. Yeah. All right. Let's we'll get to those wide receivers here in a minute. Man, I got a million questions hitting me all at once here. Okay, let's pretend I draft late. And I'm let's see here. I want to play this scenario correctly in my head. All right, let's say I get one of the good running backs kind of late in the first round. Maybe that's Jonathan Taylor, whatever the case may be. And then someone like CD Lamb is available still like around pick 20 or so. I'm probably wise to draft him because I'm looking down the board back at the running backs, and I see where I can take Montgomery for the Texans. It would be a little bit early, but it would be, let's see, if this is a snake draft, then I would have 10. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but David Montgomery would be, he's a steal down there, and you maybe fill out your roster a little bit better if you have someone like a CD Lamb available beforehand, correct?
Well, yeah. Well, first off, I'm very high on Lamb. I actually rate Lamb as the number 2 receiver. And
yeah, what's he doing at 22nd? That's crazy.
Yeah, behind Chase. So, like I said, I'm in no hurry necessarily to draft him because, I'd probably rather have a running back in round 1. But I'll tell you what, to me, where the difference is here. And this is where mock drafts are so important and why I highly recommend them to people, is that, as you've mentioned and we talked about a little earlier, as you get down into round, if you take a wide receiver with one of your first 2 picks, and so now let's say you take a running back with your other pick. Let's say, like you discussed there, you're toward the end of the first round, you get Taylor, you get Lamb. Oh man, you're in great shape. You got 1 star at each position. Now it gets to you in round 3, and it's late in round 3, mind you. It's like, okay, what's left for me at running back, and how comfortable am I drafting this guy as my second starter? You mentioned Montgomery. I like him, but at the expense of a 3rd round pick, do I let him slide to round 4 and take him there, which might even still be a little early for him. I don't know. I don't think I can slide to round 5 with him. But in round 3, so the guys that I talked about before, where's Henderson going? How comfortable are you taking Henderson at that point to be your number 2 back? How comfortable are you taking Scatterbo at that point to be your number 2 back? Even Kyron Williams. These are question mark guys who you'd like not necessarily to say he's one of my starting running backs, because if he is, then you almost automatically have to take a 3rd one pretty early to protect yourself. And so that's, you have to be really confident in these guys. And I am in Henderson, by the way. I think Henderson's a far more valuable pick than most people think, even given his shaky status. But I don't know that I would say that about some of these other guys. But when you do the mock drafts and you see, okay, it comes to me in round 3, oh boy, the well has dried at running back. I'm into this area where I'm throwing darts, and this is one of my starting players. And if I throw darts right now and I get a running back, A, it's 50-50 proposition. B, I just lost out on a receiver that I really like. So all the more reason to, get your 2 running backs out of the way if you can. Unless, like I said, you're comfortable, and everybody's got their own opinion. You'll see this in the mock draft. You'll see, wow, Hall slipped to me in round 4. Scatabo slipped to me in round 4. Henderson was still available to me in round 3. You know who I really like this year, and I have no idea where to select him. But I like Charbonnet. And I think he's going to be, if Charbonnet weren't injured, he would be a very, very solid third-round pick. So the question is, how injured is he? I don't think Seattle, a title contender, the defending champs, is going to, bank their early season on a collegiate backup running back as the starting running back for a defending championship team. Can't believe that that's ever happened in NFL history, where a defending champ has gone into the season and said, okay, well, we got a rookie who was a backup in college. He's going to be our starting running back this year. Yeah, you got to be kidding me, right? But I think that Charbonnet, without Walker there anymore, I think Charbonnet, if he's healthy enough, could have a really big season, especially in terms of scoring touchdowns. He's one of these guys. I got to have him on my team. Question is when. And again, being in these mock drafts, you see that, oh man, he's not going until round 8, round 7. I mean, where's he listed on your, the ADP list you're looking at?
Let's see.
It may take you a while to find him. I mean, he's he's way down there.
Yeah, yes. 43rd running back, somewhere in the
43rd running back,
12th round, 136 pick overall.
Say not 43rd pick, 130th. That's the 13th round in a 10 team league.
Plenty of scrubs above him, like Krosky Merritt, we mentioned.
Oh, obviously, if he's 43rd running back, there's 13 NFL backups that are listed ahead of him. This is the top back on the Super Bowl defending champion. Now, how healthy is he? And in fantasy, there are a lot of people who get, very shaky when they're talking about even, this guy had a hamstring injury during training camp. I'm not going to draft him. Or this guy's holding out. He's going to miss the first game of the season. I'm not going to draft him. And that ends up being a huge mistake. I mean, what it does, it allows these guys to slip down farther to where, if you think they're a bit of a risk, you're not drafting them in the 4th or 5th round. You're drafting them in the 8th or 9th round, where you could take risks like this. So again, it's guys like that where, how comfortable are you, that he's going to have a really nice season? Because if you think, what, man, I really like this guy, I really think he's going to have a good season, then you can be more risk-taking early on with your backs. Now you can let the back slip a little, knowing that, well, you know what, I'm going to have an ace in the hole that I'm going to take in round 8. So I'm going to, in your scenario where you have Taylor and you have Lamb as your first 2 picks, instead of rushing in there and taking Montgomery or somebody like that who's risky, you know what? 3rd round, and you got to be kidding me. Odunze is still available. London is still available. Collins is still available. Devontae Smith. There's just a bunch of wide receivers. Some of these guys are going to be gone, but somebody's going to slip to you in round 3 and even in round 4, where you could come out of, rounds 3 and 4 if you can convince yourself that there's somebody lower down the list that I really like among the running backs. That okay, I'm gonna take. Dunze slips to me in round 3. I really like Jameson Williams, our boy Jameson Williams. I'm going to take him in round 4. And now all of a sudden, I've got Lamb and Odunze and Williams as my 3 receivers. Oh, man, I'm sitting very pretty there. I've got Taylor as my top running back. I really like that. And now you're in a position where, okay, now let's start throwing some of those darts at running backs, knowing that in round 8, I really like Charbonnet, and he's going to be my guy. And he's not going to be a starter for me on opening day, obviously, but long term, I really like him, and that's a part of the draft strategy. Is that who are you comfortable taking in rounds 4, 5, and 6, so that you don't have to draft at that position earlier on. And that, the receiving depth, man, you'll see this when you do these mock drafts and you get to round 4, 5, and 6. You've got to be kidding me. This guy's still available. Well, of course he is. He's the 25th projected receiver, and even, I was watching the Dolphins game. Parker Washington is going to be a guy who gets a lot of passes thrown to him. I'm not saying you need to draft this guy in the 4th round, but you on a bad team, going to be behind in the second half. I got a quarterback who's got a nice arm. You don't got a whole lot of other options at wide receiver. This guy's going to get 10, 12 balls thrown to him every game. He may never score a touchdown, but we've seen this a lot in fantasy. The guy who catches 8 passes for 80 yards, even without scoring, you got him in the 6th round. That's a nice value, and that's the kind of guy.
Yeah, that's getting you 15, 16 points, whatever the case
right.
may be.
And that's right. As a guy that would you take that from your first receiver? No, I want more scoring, more touchdowns. But as a guy you drafted as a 3rd or 4th receiver, I could lead the league in receptions this year. The way they're going to have to throw the ball around because they're so far behind. That's. But again, you see that. By doing these mock drafts, you see that the quality of guys who are available in round 6 and round 7, and why I recommend when you do these drafts, take a different philosophy toward each draft. Take 2 running backs with your first 2 picks in a mock draft and see where that leaves you at wide receiver. Or on the other side of it, take 2 wide receivers in your first 2 picks and see where that leaves you with running backs. I think you'll come to the conclusion that, oh boy, there's no comparison. You've got to get your running backs out of the way because the receivers down there are much more attractive than the running backs are.
And don't forget, you have these best ball drafts on the DraftKings fantasy app where you can actually put some money in, go through the motions of a mock draft, and just kind of let your lineup sit because the points are determined by everybody on your team. And maybe you get some money at the end. And you're getting your mock draft done too. And everyone's kind of paying attention in that for the most part because everyone does have a little bit of money involved. So you might get more serious drafters drafting late, which kind of helps things as well. So I recommend the best balls in terms of fantasy pre-draft and mock draft type of things. Okay, let me do a little either or with these running backs, and then we'll get to the receivers.
All right.
Would you rather have Quinshon Judkins or Bucky Irving?
I mean, looking at my list here, I rate one right on top of the other, coincidentally. So, I mean, I'm very even on the 2 of them. I actually rate Irving a spot higher, but now when looking at them, I think Judkins has a chance to have a better season, just because I just don't trust Tampa Bay. Plus the fact that they brought in a pass catching back, and we all know in fantasy how valuable catching the ball out of the backfield is. Judkins to me has very little competition. He's a young back who, if this team with a new coach, is looking to, to progress, slowly and steadily up a ladder, he's going to be one of these guys that they want to see develop year after year. I think he'll get more opportunities than Irving. And even though Cleveland has a chance to be a lot worse team if Tampa puts it together, which I'm not expecting, I'm going to guess that he's going to get, closer to 18 touches a game, where Irving might only get like 12. And that I'll always go with the guy getting 18.
Yeah, the competition for Judkins is Dylan Sampson and Raheem Sanders.
Exactly. Wake me up when we get to an NFL caliber guy.
Okay. Let's do a couple more of these. That was a good first one, huh?
Yeah, like I said, now, I'm looking at my list. I'm now moving Judkins one spot higher based on my.
Okay. Would you rather have? This is a hard one too. Maybe. I think I know who I'd rather have. I guess Josh Jacobs or Travis Etienne.
Oh, that isn't close.
Jacobs. Right?
Yeah. Because the problem with Etienne is that you've got Kamara.
Right.
And Kamara isn't obviously, isn't the back that maybe he used to be. But he's a Hall of Famer, or so, fantasy Hall of Famer anyway.
Right.
Who they're not going to let sit there and rot.
Right.
If nothing else, they'll use him. I mean, he's an elite pass catching back. They got to find a way to get him on the field. And Etienne has had an opportunity to demonstrate that he's, a real, star quality kind of guy. He hasn't shown that yet. So I think that Kamara retires or gets injured in the preseason. Well, that changes things because now all of a sudden that competition isn't there. But it's one of these teams that I talked about before. I really like New Orleans this year. I think they're going to have a real good offensive team. And they've got a nice, very underrated quarterback. If they could choose one of these two backs, I'd love to have them. But that uncertainty leads me to, no, you know what? Give me Jacobs, who has no competition at running back. NFC Central, we've talked about, NFC North, we've talked about this. They play the, cupcake schedule this year. And so I expect Green Bay is going to make the playoffs. Here's your every down running back. I really think there's about a 4-round difference between those two guys.
Okay. Marion Hampton. That's interesting you say that because they are 10 picks apart on the average. Running back 17 for Jacobs, running back 19 for Etienne.
But see, that to me, it tells you something about the lack of depth at the running back position. Because, in a 10-team draft, there are going to be 20 starting running backs.
Right.
Well, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 guys who I've separated from the pack, 2 of which are Judkins and Irving, who I do not want as my starting running back. But the point is, you get down to the point where 15 of these guys have been drafted. And now all of a sudden, you got, oh, man, do I want Hall? That's a terrible team. Do I want Judkins? Terrible team. Do I want Irving? No. And now you start saying, well, I guess I'm going to have to go to this group of, should I take Dowdle now? Or maybe I should take Warren. Oh, no, I don't, they're fighting each other. Do I take Brooks? Do I take Hubbard? They're fighting each other. So you get down to that point real quickly where, I'm drafting a part-time back with a big question mark, and it's my second back. That's a recipe for disaster. And so, and that's the difference here. But, somebody's going to take these guys. Maybe Etienne is one of these guys where, you say that's a question mark, but he's going to get a majority of the carries over Kamara. All right, you might feel that way. I'm not confident it's going to end up that way. I'm not risking my fantasy season on it. But so many other people are willing to take that chance that he ends up, a round lower than Jacobs. And to me, there's just no comparison between those two.
Okay, I think you just answered this question, but I'll ask it anyway. Amari in Hampton or Breece Hall?
Well, I think I'm going to be wrong on this one. But I mean, 2 years ago, I thought Hall was really good. And I've lost all confidence in him. I think he's a better back than I'm giving him credit for. But he's one of these backs who, like I said, I have him rated one spot ahead of Judkins and Irving. To me, they're all kind of in the same boat, where if it got to me and I'm choosing between those three guys, you know what? I ain't taking any of them. I'm looking at another position, or I'm throwing a dart at one of these running backs who are no sure things, and that's Hampton. I'm shocked that Hampton is not considered, more of a full-time back, and I think he will be when the dust settles this year. But it's risky. It's my same feeling about Henderson. You know what? As much as I feel Henderson's going to be their vast majority of touches back, I'm not 100% sold on that. So it's a bit of a shaky pick. But at least with Hampton, you're getting him, I think, at a decent price, where maybe you can take more of a chance. So I'm going to take a chance on Hampton rather than kind of the known commodity, which is Hall.
All right. Let's go to some wide receiver stuff. And let's just go on the premise that we've locked down a couple of good running backs. So now we got to look down the list here. And if we're in a 10-team league, then that's going to be somewhere around pick number 21 and down is available. And let's say we're kind of picking towards the end of the first round, which gives us early second round, which again, early in the third round, which would be somewhere around pick, let's see.
Yeah,
27, 28. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So we'll start at just 25. I see 25th right now, DJ Moore. I see Christian Watson, 26th wide receiver. This is how they're ranked, not their average position. No, wait, I'm sorry. We want to do average draft position. Yeah, let's not do the rank. So if we're picking low 20s, so that's going to leave us with, Pickens is 23rd. Devontae Smith is 30th. Malik Neighbors is at 31. Olave is at 32. Rice is at 33. How about that? Of those four, Smith, Neighbors, Olave, Rice, who's the most appealing to you right there?
Well, and now you see why I suggest taking two running backs early on, because I'll take any of those four guys.
Right.
And at this point of the draft, if all four of them are still available, that means the following round, there's a good chance that one of them is still going to be available. And now I end up with two of these guys to go with my two-star running backs. I think Rice to me stands out among that group. I rank Rice as number 7. I'd consider him in the second round. If he's available in the third round, I think that's a steal. I think he's that good. Like I said before, I think Mahomes, Mahomes thinks he's Tyreek Hill. Mahomes, I'm not saying I necessarily agree with this, given the fact that they've had other good options, but I think Mahomes throws to him way too much. And that's a good thing. If he's on your fantasy team, he doesn't have any of these off the field issues, hanging over his head to start this season. I take him at that point. That said, I think Olave is another guy who you could feel very comfortable with as your number one receiver. And it would be a tough choice between Rice and Olave because I really do think they're both top 10 wide receivers. And so, I'll take Rice ahead of him. Then there's Neighbors. I'm hoping to get Neighbors this year. I'm hoping he slips to the level that you're talking about because I'm not comfortable taking him. I think before he got injured, he was one of these guys who was on a path to be another Justin Jefferson, another Chase,
right?
That level of receiver. Now he got hurt, and now there's he had a second procedure. What's he really like? He's the kind of guy that I was referring to a while back, where he's questionable for week 1. And because of that, he loses about 20 points on your average draft list because that's a red flag. I got to win week 1. I can't have a questionable guy in week 1, even though he's going to be a superstar, starting in week 2. That's just bad thinking. I think that, but yes, hey, I love it. Let him slip a couple of rounds longer because I'd feel a little uncomfortable taking him. If I got 2 running backs, I'd feel a little uncomfortable taking him in round 3 as my top receiver. But if he were my second receiver, I'd love it. I'd love getting him in round 4. Then you got Devontae Smith, who I think is a really, really good receiver, an underrated talent that this year is going to be given an opportunity to spread his wings a little bit. I thought that because of A.J. Brown's mental deficiencies, they had to try to keep him happy in recent years, and they overthrew the ball to him and didn't get the ball as much to Smith. I think Smith is a really, really, elite level talent, and the perfect guy to draft in fantasy because he's a guy who projects to see more balls this year, to have far better numbers than he's had because you don't got Brown there anymore, and so. I think those were the 4 guys you mentioned, right?
Yes,
but coincidentally, I talked before about, the top 5 picks in the draft where Chase, Nakua, and Smith-Njigba have to be in that group. Well, I actually put Lamb in that group too. I think those 4 receivers, stand out. But then I've got Rice on my list ranked 7th, Olave 8th, Neighbors 9th, and Smith 11th. So I've got them all, wide receiver 1 type of potential, low end wide receiver 1, but the type where, if I can get 2 of these guys, I feel really good about, give me Rice and Smith, give me Olave and Neighbors, I get 2 of these guys in round 3 and 4 in this scenario that you're talking about. Man, did I make a good choice to go with running backs early because these are elite level receivers. I'm feeling really good about my team right now. If I've started out, Taylor, if I started out Taylor and Henry with my first 2 picks, and now I come back and I get Rice and Devontae Smith, man, you don't want to be in my league because I got the best team right now after 4 picks. And looking down the list of wide receivers, I still need one, for a flex position. Oh my God, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah,
They're still available, around later. So
we'll get to that in a second. But I'm still looking at the guys right above who I mentioned, and underrated to me on this list is A.J. Brown. He's better than Nico Collins. He's going to be better than Drake London this year. I think A.J. Brown has a legitimate chance to lead the league in touchdown receptions, and he's paying 24-1 to do so. We know he has a quarterback who likes to throw the ball down the field, but if all the chemistry does go right for A.J. Brown and Drake May, and we've seen this act before with Randy Moss coming into town with New England under Josh McDaniels. I'm going to, I already do. I got $25 on it already. I'm going to probably add some more on A.J. Brown, 24-1 for the most touchdown receptions. But at 23rd, he's a steal right there to me.
I agree. And in fact, if you noticed, you paid attention to my draft list there where I listed Rice 7th, Olave 8th, Neighbors 9th, and Smith 11th. You might be wondering, well, what happened to number 10? That's where I put Brown. I put Brown right in that same group with these guys. And I agree with you that he should be, the new Mike Evans, that this touchdown a week scorer. I think that what we saw from May last year, May throws a really good ball down by the goal line. Throwing the corner routes, the fade routes. He got touchdowns from a lot of very mediocre receivers down by the goal line. Now you've got this big, tough guy who catches balls in the crowd, and he's far better than anybody they had last year. New England had last year catching balls down there. We've talked in years past about the 6 TD scorers, having the 6 TD parlay list.
Right.
He's
got to be on there.
On my list.
I mean, even if it's 2 players to get 10 on a greedy type of ticket, he's one of them, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think 10 is a lot of touchdowns.
It's a lot.
But yeah, I mean, hey, that's why they call it greedy, right?
6 is a lot. You think 6 touchdowns for a wide receiver would be easy? It's crazy how it's not. It really is.
Right. And that's what makes the odds look so attractive is that 6 touchdowns for AJ. I don't know. I'm just throwing a number out there. But 6 touchdowns for AJ Brown at plus 150. Wow, you got to be kidding me! They're giving money away.
Wow, I didn't see that.
But anyway, that's and then
that's worth a big straight bet.
He gets 5, right? He's definitely on my top 5 for touchdown scorers among receivers.
AJ Brown or Justin Jefferson?
Oh, I take Jefferson.
Okay.
I'm bigger on Kyler Murray than most people.
Literally.
Kyler Murray, he reminds me a little of Russell Wilson. He's faster. He's more of a scrambler. He's not as smart as a scramble around and keep your eyes down the field type of guy like Wilson always would. Find his way around. He's so small he couldn't throw over guys, so he just maneuver around them. 5 seconds later, he chuck one down the field, and the guy's wide open. I think that Murray can create those kinds of situations, and I just think Jefferson remains. I mean, it's not like he's coming off a major injury. He's not the same as he used to be. Justin Jefferson should be as good as he's ever been physically. That's zero concern is how Justin Jefferson, is coming off a knee injury or he had an Achilles. No. This is a guy in prime shape physically. Question is, can the quarterback get him the ball? 2-3 years ago when the answer was yes, this guy was right up there with Chase, in terms of that kind of talent. Now, because he hasn't had that level of quarterback, he's dropped down significantly. And to me, how much do you trust the quarterback? It all comes down to that. I think that Murray could, could reinvigorate this guy and raise him back to the level where next year at this point where we're talking, now he's back in that group of, wow, you got to consider him as one of the top 5 picks. I think that, in my scenario where you're drafting 2 running backs early, I find it to be shocked if you were able to get him in round 3. Count your blessings if you could. But he's so good that, he's worth considering at some point in round 2. And, but anyway, as much as I like AJ Brown, I rate Jefferson. I rate Jefferson 5th best overall, behind the big 4.
I might be selling Kyler Murray short myself, no pun intended. Just because that coach seems to be a really good coach. He just does. I mean, he kind of got Darnold off the snide, which eventually propelled him with another team to a Super Bowl. But he at least resurrected his career. That will be an interesting case study to see what he does with Murray. What would it shock you if Minnesota somehow everyone beats up each other in that division, and somehow same question with the Raiders, somehow they end up on top?
Well, I think Minnesota's a way better team than the Raiders.
Right.
Minnesota has a very good defense. Oh man, the competition there is just too good.
Yeah.
I mean, you might make a case that, where's Green Bay headed? They're more of a 10-7 level team than they are an 11 or 12 win team. So maybe you can catch them with a good season. Is Chicago going to repeat last year? Maybe not, but they're I think it's still an 11 win team. And then you got the Lions, who had a tough schedule last year and now go to the other end of the spectrum. I just think that they're going to be able to put up monster numbers on teams. And if they're healthier defensively than they were last year, it'd be hard not to be. But if they're even, get any kind of guys back, they're a 12, 11, 12 win team. So you're talking about button heads there with 3 double-digit winning teams. You're going to have to win maybe 13 games to win that division. I don't see Minnesota getting to that level, but I do think they can get to like 9-8, which would be a nice improvement for them. They just need to get their offense going again. They have the talent. I think they've got 2 running backs, with Jones and Mason, who are, again, they're the tandem that I don't like. And in their case, you're probably going to end up splitting carries between those 2 guys. Not great for fantasy, but good, on the NFL level. Gives them a nice, solid running game. You've got Hawkinson, who's a quality tight end. You've got Addison, flanking Jefferson, and gives you a nice, real nice second receiver. They've got the weapons. It comes down to the quarterback. And how good do you feel about this guy? I love the fact that they're already committing to him, because that's what he needs. He needs the confidence, rebuild that confidence that he used to have. And, I think they're making the right move there to try to get him to that level, mentally. So I see Minnesota as a far, far better offensive team than they've been the last couple of years.
Okay, I'm picking towards the bottom again. So this puts me somewhere in the lower part of the 40s and upper 50s for my next pick. And we want to go flex. And we'll look at the wide receiver still. But potentially available here, pick your poison. Ted McMillan, Jalen Waddle, Ladd McConkey, Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams. To me, it's got to be Adams, right? I feel like he's the one who catches more touchdowns than anybody.
He does catch a lot of touchdowns. I'm not as high on him as most people, just because you're talking about being the second receiver to a guy who's going to get 10, 12 balls thrown to him
if he's
every
playing.
week
If
when
he's
he's
playing.
healthy. Now,
Yeah.
right. The fact is, well, that happened last year, and Devontae Adams still had a really good season. I'll admit I probably underrate him. But I think that within that group there, I would put Wilson ahead of the rest of them. You're talking about a Jets team that's not going to be real good. A team where, talked about this before, you don't necessarily want to draft a Jets running back because they're going to be behind in most games. But how much do you trust their passing game? They're going to throw the ball a lot. I think Wilson is an elite level receiver who's been stuck on a bad team. Is still an elite level receiver who's stuck on a bad team. But I like the fact that he's elite level. And on a team now that's trying a new quarterback, probably what you would consider to be a very average quarterback, but a guy with a big arm can get the ball down the field. I think he's got a chance to have a really good season. I wouldn't want him certainly as my top receiver. I wouldn't necessarily want him as my number 2 receiver, but if we're talking about 5th round in your draft there, picking in the mid 40s, somewhere close to 50, which would be the last pick of the 5th round. He's still there, and he's my 3rd receiver behind, we talked before about having Rice and Devontae Smith as your top 2, getting Garrett Wilson as your flex, your number 3 receiver. Man, that's I like it.
Geno, again, could be the resurgency of Geno Smith. All right.
Well, let's not get carried away there,
Yeah.
but at least, I'd much rather have him than Fields.
Right.
I just think, Geno Smith is more of a trustworthy guy who's smart enough. I mean, Geno Smith played for the Raiders. He knew to get the ball to Bowers, even though he was their only receiving target. Geno Smith playing for the Jets, he's got to look around and say, I know where I'm throwing the ball. I've got one really good receiver, and he's going to be my guy. And so, as opposed to, Fields, who will look and say, "Oh, it's not open, I'm going to run with it," And so I trust Geno to at least be competent enough that a star receiver like this can, maybe not have his best season, but 80% of Garrett Wilson is in the 5th round is good enough for me.
And if you have one of these tight ends available in Loveland or Warren, snag them up with that later pick. And then, next couple of picks, you can get one of these wide receivers again. But you'll be able to lock up the tight end sooner than later. I mean, you need to, if you see these tight ends available to you around 45, you need to take them there or they're gone, right?
Yeah, and I would recommend not taking him. I mean, I just think that especially if you've started out running back, you're not going to get your flex position at the running back position. You don't need to. You don't need to draft another running back that early. You need to go wide receiver, because as we've talked about, look at all these names that we've talked about available in the 40s and into the 50s. There's a handful of guys who I would gladly take as my number 3 receiver. And I want to lock that up. I want to lock up my 3rd really good. In my dream world, Jameson Williams slips to that point. I think he's ready to have, we've seen how much he improved last year. We talk about him every week. We have for 2 years. And last year he finally showed what he's made of. And the raving about him in camp, of course, that doesn't really mean anything because every team's, positive in camp, right? But I just think that he, I mentioned Detroit playing a weaker schedule this year. They still don't have, they've got one less weapon without Montgomery there. I mean, they're all about Gibbs, St. Brown, Jamison Williams, and to a lesser extent, Laporta. They've become like the Eagles. It's very easy to identify who's getting the ball on that team. And I just think Jamison Williams has gone from a guy who's, gets 2 or 3 balls a game to last year where he's getting 5 or 6 balls a game to this year where he could get 7, 8 balls, 9 balls a game. And you put the ball in his hands that many times, you're a touchdown waiting to happen. So anyway, my point is I'd rather have a guy like that, lock in that third receiver, lock in that flex position, because if you look down your list of tight ends, you're not getting Warren. Well, of course, you're not getting Bowers or McBride at this point. You're not getting Warren or Loveland or that level of tight end if you're going with the 3 receivers in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round. But look at the list. Look at, scratch Bowers, McBride, Warren, and Loveland, right? And look at who's left the tight end. In years past, you would say, oh, great, I'm stuck with a run-blocking tight end. But no, you've got Andrews, Fannin, Goddard, Likely, Ferguson, Laporta. That gets you to 10, right?
Jake
Kelsey,
Ferguson's still all the way down there. Yep.
Henry, Hawkinson. I mean, we're not talking about, roll the dice on Pitts or roll the dice on Sadiq, the rookie. No. I'm talking about, if you're talking about 10 tight ends and Bowers and McBride and Warren and Loveland are gone, well, take your choice of these next 6. I really like Andrews. And for 2 reasons. Number one is they don't have Likely anymore. And number 2 is they've gone to more of a conservative approach on offense. No Harbaugh there anymore. They brought in a new coordinator who's more of a run-oriented guy. I think they'll be a lot more conservative offensively. And they don't, really
the quarterback trusts them already too. They already have that built in.
And so out of that group of 5 to 10 who, I'm going to be stuck with one of these guys if the longer I wait. How okay am I with this? Andrews, I like. Fannin, I think, has a really good chance to have a big season for Cleveland. Goddard, doesn't have A.J. Brown there anymore. He now becomes, their more of their possession tight end. And we already saw he, catch the ball before. Likely gets a new home this year where he's all by himself. He could be a real sleeper receiver. Ferguson from Dallas catches a lot of balls. Laporta, I rank as the 10th tight end. The 10th tight end. Everybody's got one. Laporta's still sitting out there.
He could be the best. He could be the best this year.
And then, and it's like, okay, there's your 10 starting tight ends. I haven't even mentioned Kelsey yet. I haven't mentioned Henry. And so beauty's in the eyes of the beholder. You're not going to be stuck with somebody in the 8th round when you don't have a tight end. You're still going to be looking at a list and saying, wow, you're telling me I've waited this long and now I'm still choosing between Laporta and Kelsey and Kraft and Henry, even Hawkinson? Wow, did I make a good choice, taking Jamison Williams in round 5 and, Charbonnet, in round 7 or what have you, and not taking a quarterback yet because, same thing with the quarterback. They say you get down to where 10 quarterbacks are taken. There are still 5 guys out there who all have top 5 to 8 potential. And I'm getting them in round 9 and 10. So I'm in no hurry to get a tight end.
Okay. So that would be a good spot to let's scoop up hit Travion Henderson, right? And add another running back or a flex. One, because you said it yourself, this guy could have a breakout season, and the risk reward at this point is great, right? I mean, we rather take him than a quarterback even at this point, correct?
Who are you talking about?
Travion Henderson.
Oh, there's no way. There is no way he's going to be available at this point.
You don't think early 50s he's still around?
I mean, it depends on the idiocy level of the people you're drafting.
Right. He's 57 right now
that,
on this one and 58th on the other one.
Yeah. He's just way too good. I mean, I can understand New England had a nice thing going last year, and they played Stevenson a lot and what have you. But Henderson was a young back last year. He's someone, and their coach, did everything right last year. I'm confident that he'll continue to do everything right. And take his young talent, to the next step. And I think a year, kind of like, Detroit did with Gibbs. Like, why is Detroit not playing Gibbs more? He's young. Give him a chance. They've got they had Montgomery. You've got another dependable back. They don't need Gibbs touching the ball 25 times. Well, here we are 2 years later, and now he is touching the ball 25 times. And you don't do that in your first year or your second year. You kind of grow into that. And I got to believe that that's where they're headed with Henderson. And that, we're at a point with Henderson now that basically where Gibbs was last year. And I think, they still had Montgomery around last year, but all of a sudden it was Gibbs, more than ever before. And I think that's where Henderson's going to be this year. But, it's still a bit of a guessing game. And so it is a bit of a risk, but man, if you've watched Henderson play, I just remember last year, and everybody who had Henderson on their fantasy team was like, throwing tomatoes at the TV set, saying, "Well, why isn't Henderson playing more? I got him on the side.
Yes,
why
very
isn't he
frustrating.
playing more?" Well, Stevenson was pretty good, and so, but I do think people recognize the talent level that he has. So, so I got, if he's available, the way that I planned this thing, if I've got my 2 running backs and my 3 wide receivers, and now I'm looking for best athlete available in round 6, we're talking about pick 55 or 60, somewhere in that range. Give me best athlete available, because he's going to be my chief backup. I'll take a running back or I'll take a wide receiver, and I'm pushing my tight end down. My pick 6 and 7 are going to be probably a running back and a wide receiver as my first bench players at each position, even ahead of tight end or quarterback. And if Henderson is shockingly is available at that point, I'm going to start designing my championship banner. I just don't see that really happening. But I do think that, as we've talked before, I do think, because I thought you were going to say somebody else. I thought you were going to say Brooks at this point. But because this is where, you can roll the dice in round 6 or 7 on one of these running backs who go into the season in definitely a, ball sharing capacity, but you would hope that over time, establishes themselves. He's sitting on your bench, so you don't really need him. But if Brooks, if Spears, if Tootin, if somebody like that, even the Pittsburgh situation, if they decide it's Dowdle or it's Warren, if it's one or the other, and you have him on your bench because you took a chance on them back when they were considered to be a 50-50 option, that could turn into being a really good back for you, a real good, give you options, not that you're going to sit Taylor or, or Henry, your top 2 backs, but maybe, something happens and you decide, I need to trade one of my receivers because I got problems at another position. And now you just slip this guy into your your flex position. So, this is where rounds 6 and 7, I think you can still get a real good fourth receiver. And I also think that this is where you kind of throw your first dart at who's your guy. To me, it would be Charbonnet would be my first guy that I'd be looking for at this point. But I watched the Titans play the preseason game, and now granted, they weren't playing their top back, and so he was in there. He's in there against a lot of second stringers. But Spears, to me, Spears is a guy who came into the league with a lot of potential. Hasn't really done much yet, but they've got a new coach. He's a defensive-minded guy. Maybe he's going to be a guy who runs the ball more than they've done in the past. And if so, and if Spears is this guy ahead of Pollard, I don't know that that I would think that that's going to happen. But if by chance he became that guy, you're talking about getting a guy pretty low in the draft who could be a real big time sleeper. So that's what I'm looking for in these middle rounds, where so many other people out there, they kind of have this, the best ball or whatever you called it, competition where everybody counts. So I'm going to draft a dependable guy in round 7 or 8 and 9. That's not me. I don't need a dependable guy. I'm not playing best ball. I'm playing regular old fantasy where your third running back or your fourth wide receiver, he's on the bench and he doesn't count. And I'd rather have a guy sitting there for 8 weeks who does nothing and then gets his opportunity and is as good as I thought he was going to be. So that's what I'm looking for at this point.
All right, Dave, we're right at 2 hours. We'll go ahead and stop it there. And then a challenge for the audience out there to go ahead and get your mock drafts done this week so you can play along next week when we go through mine with Dave. We'll see who I draft compared to who went before me, who's still on the board after me, and then we'll kind of come up with somewhat of a grade of how I did, and then we will get super pick heavy.
Well, and like I said before, these mock drafts are free. Especially if you do it on ESPN, you could do 5 of them in one day. Not that I would recommend it, but I'd recommend you kind of have a life. But when you do these mock drafts, take a different strategy into each one. Say, you know what, I'm going to draft Josh Allen just to see in the second round, just to see what that does for me down the line. And is it possible that I'm making a mistake not considering a quarterback this early? Well, do a mock draft taking Josh Allen in the second round and see what that leaves you with. And then you'll see that, maybe you like it. Maybe you say, wow, they were right. The depth of wide receivers is so great that I can take the top quarterback and still get me good wide receivers down in round 6 and 7. So I like this strategy. Or you might look at it and say, oh boy, I see why we're not doing it this way. The depth at running back runs out so quickly that if I don't take a running back in round 2, it's a big mistake. Draft a couple running backs in the first and second round. Draft a couple receivers in the first and second round. See where that leaves you, and draw some conclusions. Man, I don't want to be stuck in this hole. Where I'm drafting. I get the last pick, and it's round 5, and I still don't have a running back. And now, I'm rolling the dice. I'm throwing a dart at the Pittsburgh guys and hoping one of them plays more than the other. So, but you only really get to see what your options are going to be by trying these mock drafts and just seeing where it leaves you. And like I said, don't say, oh, I'm going to do 10 mock drafts and use the same strategy every time. You get the same result every time. Try different things and see what you like. And then when we talk about it moving forward, you can, compare your experiences with our experiences.
All right, a couple things just to wrap up, to mention odds-wise that I brought up earlier, but I didn't get the official odds. But no go on the Raiders. 6-0 in the AFC West is 250 to 1. The Raiders to have a rushing touchdown every game is 250 to 1.
Yeah, that to me is much more realistic.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, than the other one. Yes, I mean it's then again if you
maybe they're in a bunch of shootouts. Yeah.
Well, if you think about it realistically, Raiders really only have one running back, right? And if they're going to score a rushing touchdown every week, it's going to be Genty. And then, well, is he really going to score 15 touchdowns this year? 16 touchdowns, 17 touchdowns? There ain't going to be anybody else for the most part. No, he's not going to score 15 touchdowns. I mean, if he gets 10 touchdowns, that'll be a really good season. Well, who's going to get the other 7? If they're going to score a touchdown every week, then you start realizing, well, no wonder the odds are 250 to 1. It's just very, very, very unlikely. But that said, I think I would go into every week. I think, the way I would look at it is, okay, what's more likely to happen this week? Genty scores a touchdown or the Raiders win? I think almost every game
Genty gets a touchdown,
season, you would say it's Genty scoring a touchdown. So that, and that's what makes that 250 to 1 to me sound intriguing.
Yeah, it might be worth a couple of shekels. The Vikings, not that we think they're going to go undefeated, but they're 125 to 1. How about this, though? Looking back at the well of last year, we're not getting 250 to 1, but we're still getting 25 to 1 on New England to sweep that division, which they're going to beat the Dolphins twice. They really, really should beat the Jets twice, which makes it come down to a 2-game parlay of beating Buffalo. So at 25 to 1, I think you're priced in there to put something on it.
Well, what's interesting about that, and I don't have the schedule in front of me, but what would be interesting to find out, you certainly have it at your fingertips, is when are the games against Buffalo?
Let's see here.
In other words, what you want ideally in that scenario, and I agree with you that you're going 4-0 against the Jets and the Dolphins. It's all coming down to those 2 games against Buffalo. Now, if you get Buffalo at home before you go Buffalo on the road, obviously you got a lot better chance of beating Buffalo at home. And now you're 5-0, going into that last Buffalo game on the road. Well, now you can start hedging yourself. Now it's like, hey, I've got whatever you said, 25 to 1 on New England, to win this game at Buffalo. Well, I'm going to protect myself and put half my potential earnings back on the other side, guarantee me a nice little profit. And while that's not always a good strategy, when you can project that you're going to beat, the Jets and the Dolphins, 4 times to set up that potential scenario, it adds another level to, wow, this could be potentially profitable in the end, and they wouldn't even have to win that last game in order for me to make a little money. So I think that's an added layer to this, what might make this, a good proposition.
Well, here's what you can do. Buffalo will be their first divisional opponent, and that is on the road in Buffalo, Sunday, October the 4th at 1 o'clock. So there's the game at Buffalo right off the bat. They'll get the Jets at home. They'll get the Miami on the road November 1st. The Jets are the 18th. So basically every other week there's a division game. They'll get all of November off. Then they come back home against Buffalo on the 6th, which is going to be arguably the hardest game, and that's the one they lost last year. Late kickoff, 4:25. So what you hope is you get to 4-0, and then you have games against the Jets on the 27th of December in the very last week of the season when you can be playing nobody, to be honest, on your team and on the other team, when Miami comes into New England, which is a great place to have them, but you could shoot for, you got to figure they're a big favorite against the Jets, which creates a middle opportunity with the point spread, and with Miami as well, taking the points with both of those teams to where you can actually middle and still win both bets.
Yeah. So that's intriguing. But yet, it kind of comes down to that very first game that, sets all that up. I mean, you gotta win that game at Buffalo in order to, to potentially set up this situation. But that's what makes these long-term things, to me, interesting, is because you don't have to, just because you have something that is not going to be determined till after, 17 weeks into the season, you don't have to sit on it. You can do things during the season to, cut your potential losses, to, as you said, create middle type situations, and have some fun with it. This does sound like something that's set up to have that kind of result.
I was stupid last year. I was just so caught up in the moment, and maybe I didn't exactly have the full bankroll available either. But once the New England went up 21-0, I should have been pounding the Buffalo plus the points button on the live line like it was going out of style, to be honest. So that's why I fouled up. All right, Dave, we'll wrap it up and we'll talk next week. Have a good one.
All right, great. That's fun.
It's like we're back in the studio. Los Angeles, 1997.
That's a good analogy.
Brett Gurwitz behind the controls. Brett.
I don't need to tell the truth, but I never lie. I don't need to bow to you. You're just passing by. I never wanted to be the one you bitch and moan and come home to. But as long as you look good, I'll come back to you. Get inside my troubled mind with all of your threats. Sometimes I think I was blind. Not before we met. I never wanted to be the one that you depend on for your life. When you cry, it smells like soup. Sound like show me night. Never feel how I said all night. I gotta ride. Each time I said all night. No, I just might. You make me stay all night. It's just that side of you tonight that makes me stay all night. I'm gonna stay all night. You're an evil little girl. I'm a twisted man, tearing through your perfect world. Make you understand. I never wanted to be the one you bitch and moan and come home to. But as long as you look good, I'll come back to you. And do the things you do, stay all night. I gotta ride. Each time I stay all night. No, I just might. You make me stay all night. It's just that side of you tonight that makes me stay all night. I'm gonna stay all. I would never treat you bad. You deserve the best from me. If you want to keep your place, you better get down on yours.
Yeah, Todd wrote this one.
Yeah. You think?
This is not mine.
Stand all night, I gotta ride. Each time I stand all night, no, I just might. You make me stand all night. It's just that side of you tonight that makes me stand all night. I'm gonna stay all night.
R.I.P. Todd.
All right, this is the round robin here on the Deep End Broadcasting Network, coming to you from our lovely Chicks Beach studios in Virginia Beach, Virginia, the United States of America. It is just after, well, not quite, almost at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Minor audio difficulties to start the show, but we resolved that, and a good conversation with Dave Del Grande. The muted part at the very beginning, you will hear more of that anyway, so no big deal. More to come on that. Maybe it's a good thing. I was trying to pick a fight a little bit with the people who are parlay haters of the universe. We'll get more into that, why parlays aren't such a bad thing as people proclaim them to be, especially those who almost worship the teaser train. Are they each in the same, trying to win multiple legs? Except one you get paid a lot more than the other. Yes. Essentially the same thing. But I digress, and we shall talk more about that as we go through the upcoming weeks. All right. Let's do a little art of making the tickets. And Nephew Dave will be popping in here pretty soon. But let's take a look at a couple of things here. Let me see what I have up on my main board. And here's a good lesson right off the bat. Right now, what you're getting offered on the website is a lot different than what you're getting offered mobily. So a lot more options, I think, right now as far as the futures go, if you're to look at this on your telephone rather than a desktop or a laptop. Let's see if I can go ahead and log in. Get my code from the Authenticator app. Let's do that. Now, I could be wrong because I haven't exactly logged in on the computer. Maybe what they're doing is kind of giving you less of what you need if you're not logged in. And then once you log in, then the whole full menu kind of shows up. So let's see what we got here. All right, I don't care about that. NFL. Okay, I see championship winners. I see games. Let's get to the football section specifically. Okay, I see player props, playoffs, Super Bowl, week 1. What do I see mobily? I see. Let me get to there real quick. I got our program up on the phone right now too, as well. All right, mobily. And they want me to log in here, which will boot me off the computer. I just want to make sure I'm telling you exactly the right thing as far as what is being offered and what isn't exactly. Now, if I go to NFL here, now I got week 1, I got Thanksgiving, I got Christmas, I got futures, I got wins, I got conferences, divisions, RSW matchup. What is that? Oh, okay, I got you. Okay. So the Cardinals to have more wins than the Jets. Cardinals to have more wins than the Falcons, et cetera, et cetera. Interesting. Division exact order. We have those. We have playoffs. What round to make? Let's see. To start 5-0 to start 0-5. We have all that kind of stuff. So a lot more available mobily than what we have on the actual desktop, which is weird. You would think that the desktop would have it all and mobily would have less. So it's quite the opposite. Let's build a ticket right now. We'll do a little art of making the tickets, which is a regular segment on our program. Let me see if I can pull that up. There we go. A little art of making the tickets. And again, Nephew Dave will be with us in just a few minutes. But for this exercise, let's take a look at some of the teams we've talked about to miss the playoffs with Dave Delgrandy and kind of see what we got here. Like the bad teams to miss the playoffs are anywhere from like minus 600, the Dolphins minus 4,000. So we're not going to play those kinds of things. What we're looking at are teams like Steelers minus 198 and the rest of the field, which the favorite to miss the playoffs in the AFC or the least favorite would be the Bills at plus 260. So you're not even getting that great of a payoff, to be honest. The Rams are plus 410 in the NFC. Third choice, Seahawks plus 184. Second choice. To make the playoffs, much better odds on teams who are like in the lower part. Well, I can't even say that. I mean, plus 180 for the Saints to make the playoffs. Is that really a great payout? Let's talk about teams to miss the playoffs, though, and kind of pick on some of the ones that we thought have a chance to be down a little bit. Now, the Chiefs at plus 154 are interesting. We'll throw them on a ticket. Talked about the Ravens, plus 240. Now, the two of those together are plus 626. All right, so a little over 6-1 odds to do that. Let's add the Buccaneers, which Delgrandy isn't a fan of, minus 172. And then we'll hold those three now for a second. Let's see if we got Nephew Dave popped up here, and then we'll get him to join the segment. Nephew Dave, good morning. How are you, sir?
Good morning, sir. Doing well. How about yourself?
Good. I'm building a ticket right now, just hypothetically looking at some numbers, but I'm putting in teams to miss the playoffs. All right. Now, don't give me a layup like the Dolphins or, something like that. But is there a team in mind, middle of the pack, or two, that you don't think are going to make the playoffs right now?
Oh boy. So middle of the road. Well, Steve, I'm not sure if they're so middle of the road. Because I think this team really could go either way at this point, and I think the quarterback health is going to be an issue. But not an issue, but could be an issue should he get hurt. What I'm thinking right now, Steve, the Saints in that toss-up of a division, I could see them winning that division. I could also see them missing the playoffs. Probably the biggest question mark of all the divisions kind of right now in my eyes. So we can count that one, Steve. Give me the Saints.
Okay, now this would make this ticket kind of weird because the first three I plugged in were kind of Delgrandy's fades, which are like the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Buccaneers. So if we throw the Saints on the ticket with the Buccaneers, basically we're calling for Carolina or Atlanta to win that division. So let's take off the Buccaneers, and we'll leave your Saints on there. And that the Saints, Ravens, and Chiefs make it 10-1, and that takes the Bucs off the board. Go ahead and give me another one.
All right, let's do middle of the road. How about? Well, all right, we'll go with how about Dallas, Steve?
All right.
If that
Adding
defense
Dallas
doesn't
to
show
this-
much improvement, I don't think it matters how many points you score.
Interesting. Dallas to miss the playoffs. Minus 108. I was thinking you might be able to get plus money on that. But no, these numbers are weird for sure. All right, so
I was thinking too.
Chiefs, Ravens, Saints, and Cowboys is 20-1. I'll go ahead and add 2 more to it. I'll throw in Minnesota at minus 176, since we really haven't hit that division. And then I'll throw in someone from the AFC South. Let me go ahead and throw in, I'm going to throw in Houston at plus 158. How about that? We're getting a nice payday from that. I'm not convinced in Houston. And where they get some defensive injuries. And then where does that leave them if the quarterback truly has the yips or whatever's going on? So a ticket of Kansas City, Baltimore, the Saints, the Cowboys, the Vikings, and the Texans. Wow. $10 will win you $1,027. All right. So that's one fun way to approach things. And think of it this way. This is a ticket you could play now because injuries could only help your cause, to be honest, in these teams' ultimate goal. What if Jefferson gets hurt the next preseason game, or CD Lamb turns his knee week 1? Next thing you know, you have teams that are shells of themselves, and you have good numbers to them not to succeed. And, it's not even record, really. It's just don't make the playoffs. You're almost betting them against the field at that point. So there's plenty of good season-long numbers. And quite frankly, since that's like a season-long type of bet, you could throw more than $10 on it. You could throw on 30 or 40 and have that as your long-term investment. And then if you hit $4,000 at the end of the day, because you faded some good teams that we've been discussing on the show, then damn, that's a nice little payday come around Christmas time or the first of the year. So $40 investment now to win something like $4,000 on 6 teams not to make the playoffs, I think is a good way to go about things. I'd rather bet teams not to make the playoffs than teams to actually make the playoffs. You have a lot more to work with as far as how many teams do and don't make the playoffs. And let's just add on to the fair with those who don't make it. It's not an easy thing to make the NFL playoffs. Ravens didn't make it last year. Chiefs didn't make it last year. So you can't sit back and automatically laugh at that suggestion right now, because the proof is in the pudding. Dallas didn't make it last year. All right. I don't think actually did any of these people on this list make Texans. I think we're the only one. They're the only ones who made it last year.
The Texans were the only ones. Yep.
So 40 to win 4,000. I mean, there you go. All right, let's look at some other stuff. And it's a shame that I need to look at my phone for this. And a lot of the odds, Dave, I don't know if you noticed this on your
I have
sites.
to as well.
There's just more stuff available on your phone than the actual computer desktop, which is weird to me. Like, why isn't both
interesting
platforms offering everything?
I had not noticed that.
Oh, I have a lot more stuff on the phone available. So let's take a look at this. These are interesting to me. And it's called, let's see, there's game lines, week 1, Thanksgiving, Christmas, futures. All right, regular season wins.
I might have to use my phone as well. I can't even get it up on the laptop.
Division winners. RSW matchups. Do you know what RSW means?
No.
Let's take a. I'm gonna Google it right now. Right. Okay. Regular season wins. There you go. Okay. Regular season wins matchups. So here's what we can do. Give me any team in the NFL, Dave.
All right.
Just anybody. First one that comes to your mind. Did we lose Dave? I'm not looking at him.
What do I cut or I something? So what
Yeah.
are we looking for? Regular season wins.
I was just gonna have you give me any team, the first one that comes to your mind.
Are you there?
Yeah, you might have to call in, man.
How about the Raiders?
Okay, the Raiders. Are you able to call in?
Yeah. Yeah,
right,
I'm gonna have to call him.
All right. Okay. Poor audio issues. Fun times there. Not our best show, guys. That's all right. It's preseason. Preseason for us too. Let's just get it all out now so we have a smooth week one. Okay. Dave says the Raiders. So let me pull them up. And this is an interesting one because we've been talking about the Raiders just a little bit, and they're not a very good team. So, how good can they possibly be? Well, if you think that they have a better record than the Cardinals, they're minus 200. All right, Dave. I'm going to have Verizon come in here and tighten up the connections. I have no doubt that's on my end. So we'll square things away before the beginning of the season. All right, so the regular season wins matchups with the Raiders are this. Will they have a better record than the Cardinals? They're minus 200 if you think that they will. Better record than the Dolphins, minus 210 if you think that they will. Now let's get to some interesting other teams. If you think the Raiders will have a better season than the Falcons, they're plus 175. If you think that they'll have a better record than the Giants, they're plus 190. If you think they'll have a better record than Dave's Commanders, they're plus 175. If you think the Raiders have a better record than the Vikings, you get 3-1. So basically, you're going to head, every week, just with straight up wins against these other teams. That's kind of interesting, huh?
Yeah, I like that actually.
All right, so let's see if we can parlay a couple of these. I'll say let's take the Raiders over the Falcons, more wins, at plus 175. Okay, now I'm going to give you another team. I'm going to go with let's go with my Patriots. Let's see where the plus money starts. Patriots, better record than the Chargers is even money. Better record than the Chiefs is plus 110. I think they have a better record than the Chiefs. Then the Eagles, plus 115. 49ers, plus 105. I think that's a good one. The Bengals.
Yeah, I love that.
Bengals, plus 120. Bills, plus 140. Now, if you want that, just take them to win the division, really. But if the Patriots sweep the AFC East, like the bet last year, it's not 250 to 1 anymore, but it still is 25 to 1. And you would want to take 25 to 1 to sweep the East rather than just to have a better record than Buffalo at plus 140, I think. The better record than the Lions, plus 135. Seahawks, plus 140. Let's go ahead and jot down the Chiefs, plus 110. And that is parlayable. So right now, Vegas to have more regular season wins than the Falcons, and the Patriots to have more regular season wins than the Chiefs. It's plus 445. Let's find one more. Give me another team, Dave.
All right, let's go with how about Detroit?
So without looking at it, I'm going to assume there's not much plus money available in Detroit.
Right, you probably got to climb the ladder pretty high for them.
They need to have a better record than either Buffalo, Seattle, Baltimore, or the Rams to have. I think plus 125 over the Ravens.
They could do that, or the Seahawks, right?
Plus 110 for Seattle. Yep, either or. So, can you do them both? Actually, you can do them both. That makes things interesting. So the Lions to have a better record than the Seahawks and the Ravens. The Falcons to have a better record than the Raiders to have a better record than the Falcons. And the Patriots to have a better record than the Chiefs. It's 17 to 1. So season long bet, $50. You can come out plus 850 at the end.
I don't mind that.
That's a fun way to do things. So there's a lot to look for in the menu that's starting to be provided here as more and more things are starting to get added. I like A.J. Brown, 24 to 1 for the most receiving touchdowns. Have you thought about that market at all, Dave?
I've been looking a little bit. So not much. Who's the favorite for that?
Touchdowns is Puka at 10 to 1. Jackson Smith is 12 to 1. Jamar Chase plus 550. St. Brown 7 to 1. CD Lamb 18 to 1. Jefferson 30 to 1. AJ Brown now 25 to 1.
All right, so in my eyes, Steve, if we're doing something like this, and I just talked about Dallas possibly missing the playoffs. I think a lot of that again has to do with their defense. But if there's a healthy Dak Prescott, I got to think CeeDee Lamb is gonna, he's really gonna do good because of that. So 18 to 1 for CD is something that I would play. I think he's gonna have a pretty good year.
All right. Let's see.
He's going to get the benefit of a healthy Dak if it stays that way.
I like CD a lot too. I'm good. I want to put him in like the 8 touchdowns or the 10. Let's see if I can find that real quick. I haven't even seen that this is out yet.
Yeah, a lot of it is not out for me. I'm getting some basic stuff here. I got to think that'll open up, though.
Player milestones, player prop yards. Touchdowns, rushing touchdowns, receptions, passing touchdowns, rush yards, pass yards, receive yards. Here's one. I mean, quarterbacks miss games. So you can take a bunch of quarterbacks to get under their total. And I played one ticket already. But man, CJ Stroud, after the year that he had, has 3,550 yards. You got to think that's under. Mendoza's 2,100 yards right now. Is he going to play more than half the games? Probably not.
Right.
So under for him. Jalen Hurts, 3,150. He's just not a passer. Under for him. Let's go under for Daniel Jones is 33-1. He gets hurt. Let's go under for him. Lamar Jackson, 3,200 yards. Let's go under for him. So this ticket doesn't sound like a good one, but I bet you most of these come home. Lamar Jackson, Daniel Jones, Jalen Hurts, Mendoza, and Stroud. Really, it's just 5 guys, and that pays 22-1. So, $100 to win you $2,000 there towards the end of the season on trying to fade some questionable passers with a lot of yardage as it is. Think of it this way: 3,300 yards for Daniel Jones is 11 300-yard passing games. Doesn't even play 11 games. There's going to be a couple games where he has 110 as well. So you need to make up that slack across the board. I don't know. I don't think passing yardage is a bad one to look at the end of the day. I think you can take most of these quarterbacks and maybe go under their passing number.
Yeah, some of those unders are really nice, I think.
All right. And then the last one we'll look at for a moment. Let's see here. Player milestones, player over-under, season leaders, team specials, Thanksgiving, Christmas, week 1. Who would be a team to you, Dave, to go undefeated in their division?
Ooh, undefeated in their division. All right. That is a good question. Let me look at those divisions real quick. Undefeated in their division. You know what, Steve? We're on a little bit of a different page here this year, I think. I am a backer of Houston this year. Besides 2 games with Jacksonville, I think they have a path to be able to do that. I think their defense could get it done for them this year. If the offense can just stay somewhat healthy, defense wins championships. That's the old pedigree, and I think Houston is certainly capable. So I'll go Houston.
Houston to go 6-0 in their division, 14-1. All right, it's not the greatest odds, but we parlay that to my Patriots. Let's see if they'll let us do this. Nope, we got to do it individually. Okay, 14-1. So basically, it's a 6-game parlay against your divisional opponents on the money line. So 100 would pay 1,400. If you were to roll that over in the parlay, you'd probably make more. You would probably make more if you just went game at a time, betting it straight up. We'll do that. Let me make a note of that. Hopefully, we'll follow that. Follow the Texans at 14-1 to sweep the division versus the money line parlay of the individual games. All right, that'll be a nice case study we can do for the season as well. All right, guys, the closer we get, the more and more picks we'll have. We might as well go down this baseball slate. Dave don't wants nothing to do with baseball. I'll go ahead and give you my take. And it is rough seas out there. I don't know if it's injuries. I don't know if it's these guys are just tired. I don't know if it's just lousy hitting, but generally a lot of these bats where we're, getting to 4 runs, 3 runs rather easily in games, man, it's like pulling teeth trying to get to 2 runs in some cases. In fact, the play I think I gave you guys last week, I wasn't asking for much. I think I was asking for 3 runs in 2 games and 4 runs in another, maybe 4 runs in another. And I don't think it got anywhere close. Under Sunday is typically what it is. That's been the joke kind of for many years, but I mean, it's been decades that, you sit here and you tune into these late afternoon West Coast Sunday baseball games. And you're like, all right, let me try to get 3 overs. Maybe they'll all, explode their bats today. And then none of them do.
Yeah.
And it's that case every week. Yesterday, oh, goodness. What's even more frustrating is that you can call some of these unders now that we're kind of that's what's frustrating is that I've been playing unders knowing that it's going under in a lot more circumstances. And then things like yesterday where the Giants get 6 runs in the 4th inning to make it basically 7-1 with the over under 7.5. And then no one scores the rest of the game. That's the kind of crap that's happening now. That kind of, irks you. It literally is that one big inning that screws you at the end of the day. And I said it too. I'm like, it's 7-1. It's over 7.5. My bet's dead. Watch neither team score the rest of the way. And this was in the 4th inning. Rest of the way, no one scored. So that's what's frustrating about baseball at the moment. That being said, you need to have thick skin. You need to fire again. And Dave, you got the list of games in front of you?
Yeah, yep.
Wins are there's a couple friendly places for wins today. Generally, they're blowing like pole to pole in different directions. So buyer beware there. The one place it looks like it is blowing out is in Pittsburgh, where we've had a couple of under games already in a series in which both teams really need to have their bats explode. But that has not exactly happened. The Red Sox have late as of yesterday, but the Pirates got a goose egg. So we'll go from there. All right, Dave, give me some games, give me some pitchers and their ERAs.
All right, Arizona and Atlanta finishing up that series. Atlanta takes one on the chin. I did have them. I want nothing to do really with baseball at the moment, but
except for he's going to play anyway.
Except for I played a ticket, and I thought the Braves at home was a good play. Surely enough, it was not. We have Michael Soroka on the mound for the Diamondbacks. Bryce Elder for the Braves. Soroka, he has a 2.92 ERA, with Elder for the Braves having a 4.03, Steve.
Soroka is a former Brave. He's made a few stops in between his stint here now in Arizona, being on the move. He played for the Nats. I think he just recently came from has he been on the Diamondbacks all year? He may have been. He was on the Nats at one point and another team at another point. So you're wondering if you'd love to have a nice little homecoming of coming back here to, have very successful trip home against his former team. So Bryce Elder stands in the way. He hasn't been super hot either, to be honest. Soroka's actually been good with that ERA and that win-loss record. The Diamondbacks are a team that's, oh, man. Let's just kind of see what they've been doing here. The Diamondbacks, 6-4 in their last 10. They won these 2 games in Atlanta, and right now they're 8 back of the Dodgers, 8 games above 500. So they've been good. They win today, they'll sweep the Braves, and they'll be exactly 500 on the road. I don't know if wishy-washy is the right word. I don't know if it's just bad luck. I really haven't messed with them too much. The times that I have, I don't feel like they've gone well. So maybe I'm a little trigger shy. So I don't like to take the Diamondbacks. The pitcher is right to go against with the Braves today. The Braves generally seem to be okay on a Sunday. Are the Braves going to really get swept by the Diamondbacks here? Even with a bad pitcher? I don't know. I think I will trust the Braves bats a little bit more today. They have to be able to get the 4 runs. You would think that they can get the 4 runs. Not the best play on the board by any stretch of the imagination, but I need to fill out some sort of a ticket. The wind is friendly for us down here in Atlanta. Over 3.5 runs is at minus 184. We'll put that on a ticket for now for the Braves, and we're basically holding our nose doing so as it stinks a little bit. Dave, next.
All right, Boston in Pittsburgh. Boston has Patrick Sandoval on the mound. He is 1-1 with a 3.30 ERA. The Pirates are going to go with Lake Bacher. He's 1-2 with a 3.97 ERA.
Yeah, I think he's newer to the rotation here. Bacher. And this is the guy with the long hair as well. So you see the guy, you've seen a couple of them with the beards and the big ass mud flap. This is one of them. Let's see. Bacher is this would be his. Basically, that's it, right? This is only career. Making sure this is it. Yeah, so this is his rookie season. And he's a relief pitcher, so he's basically probably coming in to pitch a couple innings and then get out of there. The problem with the Pirates is they just don't have the same team that they started the season with all these injuries. I mean, there's no Connor Griffin. I mean, as soon as he comes back from being hurt, he gets hurt again and is gone. Ryan O'Hearn's injury looked terrible. Gone is Azuna. They jettisoned him. So they're really kind of relying on a lot of these younger bucks who are starting to have some issues. Now, Nick Gonzalez is still hitting 307. Brandon Lau has 26 home runs. Reynolds is a little bit hit or miss as well. Their lineup is available or unavailable right now at the moment. Boston, their lineup is out. If we're going to take a look at stolen bases, there's a chance here today with Boston. Duran has 17, Rafaela 16, and Durbin 14. Rutschman, Dave's former Oriole, they'd love to see him get going. This is the right ballpark to do so. I feel like Boston probably has a little bit better of a lineup than what Pittsburgh's going to have to offer today. I will lean Boston. I'm not going to get greedy here, but give me the Red Sox for over 2.5 runs. Let's see what that pays. I thought I had it on the screen here. Oh, here it is. All right. So Boston, if you have any plays, Dave, you know, I mean, I know you don't like baseball, but throw them out anyway. Dave.
I'm trying, Steve. There ain't much here. I guess if I have to take something, I'll have some input here. But
I got you.
Red Sox money line maybe 109.
Again, this website just different from the phone on how things are set up, which is kind of annoying. All right, let me go to the phone because I'm much better at it this way. So the Red Sox to get over 2.5 runs today. Not quite out yet. Alternate number. Oh, that's why. Yeah, I don't see it yet. Well, 3.5 is at minus 126. 4.5 plus 116. 3.5 is going to be minus money. So figure you're going to, somewhere minus 250, something like that over 2.5 Red Sox runs. So that's where I'm going to lean. And I'm going to use a profit boost to negate a lot of this juice as well. So that's going to be kind of the idea behind this ticket. I just want a winner. So I'm trying to dumb it down here. But Red Sox minus 2.5 or over 2.5 runs when it pops off here. All right, Dave, next.
All right, Yankees are in Toronto taking on the Blue Jays. Yankees have Ryan Weathers on the mound. He's 5-7 with a 3.69 ERA. Toronto coming to deck with Dylan Cease. He's 7-5 with a 2.40 ERA. Steve, the Yankees are struggling as of late here. Toronto, winners of 4 of their last 5. Give me Toronto to close out the series on a Sunday.
Cease is a good pitcher too. This game has 2-0, 2-1, low scoring game again written all over it. There's just no pop in the bat for the Yankees that they do now. Trying to fulfill it with Lombard Jr., the young buck, Luis Garcia via the trade, but there's no Bellinger, still no Judge. Losing Bellinger is a real big gut punch. At least he had him in there to give you some sort of an offense. And now he struggled himself once Judge went out, but no Stanton. And the Yankees just cannot score runs. If you're taking Yankee team overs, there's a short stretch where they kind of broke out, and then they've gone right back into this shell of not scoring runs. I've been avoiding them. So I think I'm going to continue to do that today. I think this is a good chance for no run in the first inning. Not that I'll play it that way. Play the tie and a little bit more juice. That way, if you do give up a run, you can score one back at the bottom part of the inning, maybe to bail yourself out. But I would expect a lower scoring game. I agree. Toronto probably wins. Cease has been the much better pitcher, but Weathers has been good too. And again, at the end of the day, I just don't think I want anything to do with this game on under Sunday, unless I'm going to throw it on an under ticket. But man, 6.5 is very, very low. So I'll pass.
All right, Washington is taking on your Mets, Steve. The Nats have Jake Irvin on the mound today. He's going to be 2-6 with a 5.79 ERA. So maybe an opportunity for the Mets to get some runs here. They have Christian Scott on the mound. He's 3-3 with a 3.45 ERA. I would go probably with the Mets here.
Mets on a slight downtick of runs after being on an uptick, although they did score 5 yesterday and 4 late Friday. That just wasn't enough for me. I needed another run out of them both nights. And they are grinding to those numbers. So it's not a fun watch. It's an uncomfortable watch. Irvin's not a very good pitcher. I agree with that. The Nats bullpen can be had. Maybe, just maybe today, the Mets trying to sweep a series again. Maybe they come out with a full offensive onslaught. So I think I do like that angle with the Mets on their team runs. Is it gross? Absolutely. It's disgusting. It's almost like I want nothing to do with it. But on a day where the picks are going to be limited anyway, you're really going to have to find your best 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, preferably 3, and just try to ride that with some sort of profit boost. Over 3.5 is minus 215. Over 4.5 is minus 118. Let's hope they break out today, and we'll go Mets over 4.5 minus 118. If I pair that with the Braves over 3.5 minus 184, I'm now getting plus 185 as the alternate numbers for the Mets pop. Let's take a look back at the Red Sox real quick. And let's see if I can get my 2.5 number I'm looking for now. Or they're still slow to the draw here. Now I just see Red Sox total runs. Man, I really don't want to take 4.5 runs with the Red Sox. I'd rather take 2.5. All right, so we'll hold off on that for now. What do you got next, Dave?
All right, the White Sox taking on Detroit today. The Sox are going to have Sean Burke on the mound. He's 7-6 with a 2.99 ERA. The Tigers are going to go with Drew Anderson today. He's 4-4 with a 3.91 ERA. I have no idea here, Steve. Maybe this is part of Under Sunday with these two teams.
So you would think so, but the White Sox have had different plans this weekend. And I think and the commentators included before the game when they started Friday, this game was on a little bit earlier in the 6 o'clock hour Eastern Friday. So this is what the one I started with. And there were high hopes that when it came to today, that there's going to be a chance that Detroit was going to be in first place, or at least going for first place, if they were to beat the division-leading White Sox. That has not been the case. It's been the exact opposite. The White Sox have now stretched their lead to Detroit. Right now, let's see, where are we at in the standings? 4.5 games now is the lead for the White Sox. And they've come out on fire, scored runs. Something tells me they do the same thing again today. I'm going to look at the White Sox runs. They are the hot team. I think the play, if you've been riding the Tigers and you don't think the Tigers are going to get swept, it's kind of like the Braves, Dave. Like, the Braves can't get swept, right? The Tigers can't get swept, right? Is what you're kind of thinking. Oh, yeah, they can. White Sox over 3.5 runs is minus 138. And that is the beautiful thing about taking the alternate runs, because I don't need to worry about now the Tigers beating the White Sox. I just need the White Sox to get me the 4 runs, and I'll be a winner at the end of the day right there. So give me over 3.5 White Sox runs at minus 138, parlayed with the Mets and the Braves. Mets over 4.5, Braves over 3.5, and I'm getting paid now 4-1 on that ticket. Wait till I 50% boosted too. After I add a couple more here. All right, what do we got?
All right, Miami taking on Cincinnati Reds today. This one in Cincinnati. The Marlins are going to go with Yuri Perez. He is 6-9 with a 3.39 ERA. The Reds are going to come to the mound with Nick Lodolo. He is 3-2 with a 4.86 ERA. Steve, this is just a game that I just don't know enough about, my friend.
Both of these pitchers have been good. Lodolo, young superstar, didn't pan out so great at first. Seems to be much better as of late. The Perez kid for the Marlins can pitch. His record of 6-9 doesn't reflect it, but he's a big kid, 3.39 ERA. I think this could be considered for a tie in the first inning bet. And besides that, I want nothing to do with it, to be honest. On an under Sunday, I bet this is an under game.
All right.
So if there's an under ticket, Marlins Reds, I think it's fair to put on there.
All right. San Diego is in Cleveland taking on the Guardians. The Padres are coming to the mound with Casey Mize. He is 4-7 with a 3.38 ERA. Cleveland is going to go with Tanner Bibby. He is 4-12 with a 3.99 ERA. I don't know, Steve. 2 teams close in record as well, somewhat anyway. I'm just not sure. It looks like a game maybe the Padres win at the end of the day, just because maybe the pitching matchup alone.
The Padres betting on either one of these teams is like pulling teeth, to be honest. It's very uncomfortable. Mize has been a good pitcher coming over from the before spoken about Detroit Tigers to fill out this Padre rotation. Bibby, as bad as he can be okay as well. Maybe his record, not necessarily reflective of that ERA, which is still sub 4 at 3.99. I kind of want to lean on a Sunday under type of game. These 2 teams just sound like an under, but that's been the problem, is they've been kind of scoring runs the series as well. But maybe that all settles down. If I'm looking for a dancing partner on an under ticket, then I'll go ahead and probably throw on the Padres and the Guardians. One, I don't want to watch it or have to watch it. And 2, just make it look like 1-0 in the 5th inning, and I'll feel good about life. All right, next.
The Phillies taking on Minnesota today. The Phillies coming to the mound with Andrew Painter. He's 2-8 with a 6.27 ERA. Yikes. Minnesota's coming with Dean Kramer, ex-Oriole, 2-4 with a 5.25 ERA. He can give up some runs. Steve, maybe here's a game that doesn't sound like you would get the runs you would think, but this pitching matchup, these 2 pitchers sounds like they can give up some runs.
It sounds like softball practice, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
The problem with the Twins is their bats have been cold. They're not very good at home, 32-30, considering they're hanging out within shouting distance of the playoffs. And the Phillies, they can go cold too, as well. But they did play nice the last couple of games. Their bats kind of popped out a little bit after going through a little bit of a lull. I think the Twins bats opened up today a little bit at home. I think the Phillies will get you some runs as well. So, yeah, if there is an over game, I think it's here. I'll probably take the Twins run line. I don't know. I'm going to have to think about that. Maybe I'll just dumb down the total overall to like 6.5 in this game. That way they both get the 3, and I'll feel good about life. Now, I'll say this too, Dave. A lot of times, if you move the alternate line to 6.5, that pays worse than if you were to take both teams over 2.5 runs in a parlay.
Right.
So both teams to get the 3 will pay more. Maybe that's the angle.
Interesting.
Both teams over 2.5 runs. I could get down with that. All right.
Yeah, I can see that.
Next.
St. Louis in Chicago taking on the Cubs. The Cardinals today. Hunter Dobbins, he is 2-3 with a 3.40 ERA. The Chicago Cubs, they have Edward Cabrera on the mound today. He is 5-4 with a 5.10 ERA.
Both of these teams are a little bit rattled right now. This game's on the ABC as well at 3:00. How about that?
Interesting.
Yep. So I'll think more about this. Obviously, you want the ball to be flying out of Wrigley today. Let's double check the wind there real quick. I looked at the winds earlier, but quite frankly, I don't recall exactly the particulars here at Wrigley Field, which, if any ballpark, for whatever reason, this is the one that matters the most. The winds are blowing out to right center field at 10 miles per hour. So that favors the left-handed batters today. I would lean with the Cubs in this game. I think the Cubs over 3.5 is probably a fine line. Dobbins, decent ERA. So maybe a pass in case he comes out good. Both of these teams just seem a little bit rattled. The Cubs trying to chase down the Brewers, making a phenomenal run of that. But, Brewers now winning a couple games in Los Angeles, at the Dodgers, the Cardinals putting up a ton of home runs in Wrigley yesterday. What's the psyche right now of the Cubs would be the question. So if they were to come out flat on the Sunday, then that's something I could see as well. So maybe a pass. What do you got, Dave? Next.
All right. Colorado, the Rockies are in San Francisco taking on the Giants. The Rockies today going with Gabriel Hughes, 0-4 with a 5.61 ERA. The Giants going with Blade Tidwell. He is 0-0, so no wins, no losses yet for him, with a 2.78 ERA, Steve.
Sounds like a Giants win to me, which means it's a pass because I'm not going to take the Giants. So pass.
Yeah, I kind of had a feeling that was coming. Texas Rangers, they're taking on the A's today. Rangers on the mound, Cody Bradford, he's 0-1 with a 2.38 ERA. The A's are going with Jacob Lopez. He's 5-4, and he has a 5.38 ERA.
The A's getting Geloff back in their lineup has helped them a little bit, giving them a little bit of spark. And they've had some decent pitching performances. As bad as we've been, as bad as we were fading the A's, they won a couple games against the Red Sox last weekend. I think they blew the games to the Rangers last night, but they really made the Rangers work for it after beating them on Friday night. The Rangers have been sliding, except for that come from behind win last night. I don't trust them at the moment. I don't trust the A's. We'll probably just pass. If we haven't done anything good by this time of the day, I think this is I think we're done for today. Looking at this,
Yeah, pack it in.
But I'll pass here.
All right, Kansas City, they are taking on the Angels today. This one's out in L.A. The Royals with Noah Cameron today. He is 6-8 with a 5.45 ERA. The Angels are going to go with Ryan Johnson. He's 2-6 with a 6.71 ERA.
It makes you want to take the over in a heartbeat, and then all you have to do is look at last night when the Angels finally put one run on the board in the 8th inning, I think is what it was, to win 1-0. So talk about I had the tie in the 1st inning, but I should have had a parlay to the tie in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th inning. 2 bad pitchers here. Again, save yourself some mental stability and just stay away from Rangers, A's, Royals, and Angels right now. That's all I could probably say about that. Pass. I want to take the over. How can you? It was 1-0 last night.
Yeah.
And the Angels have not been scoring any runs in their last 25 games or so. They're averaging right at just over 2 runs a game. So they have not been good.
All right, Milwaukee is in L.A. to take on the Dodgers. The Brewers are coming with Logan Henderson today. He is 6-2 with a 2.88 ERA. The Dodgers are going with Tarek Skubal, 7-6 with a 2.93 ERA. Steve,
both of these teams scuffling offensively as well. If there's a tie in the 1st inning bet, I think this would be a good one to do. I think there's a chance that this is going to be a lower scoring game again, and there won't be many runs scored, and it's probably something like 3-2 at the end of the day. But beware, everyone who keeps telling you how good the Brewers are, beware of that statement. Everyone who keeps telling you how good the Dodgers are, beware of that statement. I mean, something just isn't right with their lineup here. Let's, again, look at the standings. And the Dodgers just 5-5 in their last 10. It feels like they're worse than that. Milwaukee 5-5 in their last 10 as well. Feels like it's worse than that. But definitely Milwaukee much better earlier in the season than what they are now. And the same as the Dodgers since the All-Star break. Really, the Dodgers before the All-Star break were kind of screwing around. And that really hasn't corrected itself. So I would just say lean with the under here, and we'll go tie 1st inning in this game.
Interesting. Okay. I can see that. Last game, Steve, of the day, NBC at 7:20 p.m. Seattle Mariners are in Houston to take on the Astros. Mariners going with Brian Wu today. He's 8-8 with a 4.15 ERA. Houston with Hunter Brown. He's 3-2 with a 3.68 ERA.
Both of these teams have won decisively in the series. Seattle yesterday, Houston on Friday night, and run output seemed to be pretty decent on the winning side of things. Could this be an under game? It could, for sure. Wu, if he shows up like he's capable of, and the Astros kind of struggling a little bit now too at the plate, then it could be a hard time scoring runs for Houston. Hunter Brown just seems like the young buck who keeps kind of coming, and you just can't discount him at any time. If this is a lower scoring game, I wouldn't doubt it. I would probably lean on the under here, and probably the 1st inning tie. If you want to play that throughout the day, we'll do it in this game. We'll do it in the Dodger game. That's 2 games. So first inning tie, and those 2 will throw in the Guardians and the Padres and the Marlins and the Reds. And that's 4 of them for you throughout the day. We'll go ahead and ride with that. Anyone else I want to throw on there? I think that would do it. Oh, Yankees and Blue Jays. That's the other one. Tie first inning. So five of them all together. Yankees, Marlins, Guardians, Dodgers game, and the Astros for my official picks. We'll take the Mets over 4.5. We'll hope for them to get to 5. We'll take 3.5 for the Braves. I think we'll take 2.5 for the Red Sox whenever it pops off. We'll take 2.5 for both the Phillies and the Twins. And I think we'll take 3 for. Do I want to do the Cubs? Oh, no. I'm 3.5 for the White Sox. That's it. So White Sox, Braves, Mets, and then all 2.5. Red Sox, Phillies, Twins. That's going to pay you nice, especially if you use a boost. All right, Dave, any play for you?
I'll go Yankees, Blue Jays under, Sox, Tigers under, Marlins, Reds under, and Padres, Guardians under. I'll try those.
All right, send me that if you don't.
All right.
All right, guys, we'll cue it on out of here. That will do it for preseason episode number 3. Go back and rewind at any time that you would like. And we'll catch you next week. 3 more preseason shows to go, Dave. We'll knock out another one
97
at 8
Almost there, man.
a.m. next Sunday. Have a good week, everybody.
I don't need to tell the truth, but I never lie. I don't need to bow to you. You're just passing by. I never wanted to be the one you bitch and moan and come home to. But as long as you look good, I'll come back to you. Get inside my troubled mind with all of your threats. Sometimes I think I was blind. Not before we met. I never wanted to be the one that you depend on for your life. When you cry, it smells like soup. Sound like Shona Knife. Never feel though I said all night. I gotta ride. Each time I said all night. No, I just might. You make me stay all night. It's just that side of you tonight that makes me stay all night. I'm gonna stay all night. You're an evil little girl. I'm a twisted man, tearing through your perfect world. Make you understand. I never wanted to be the one you bitch and moan and come home to. But as long as you look good, I'll come back to you and do the things you do. Stay all night. I gotta ride. Each time I stay all night. No, I just might. You make me stay all night. It's just that side of you tonight that makes me stay all night. I'm gonna stay all. I would never treat you bad. You deserve the best from me. If you want to keep your place, you better get down on yours.
Yeah, Todd wrote this one.
Yeah. You think?
This is not mine.
Stay all night. I gotta Each time I stay up night, no, I just might. You make me stay up night. It's just that side of you tonight that makes me stay up night.